How you living YouTube? How you living Facebook? Tonight we're going to have a little chat about why it's important for us to be thankful in all things, to include our struggles and our challenges. I want to get a little light on the situation here so that I'm not completely washed out in my poorly lit office here, if that's cool. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully doing well on Facebook and over here on YouTube. Let me pull up the chat now so I can chat with all you beautiful people and make that happen. Yes, indeed. So yeah, tonight, as is typical, we're going to do some open Q&A, but we're also going to do just a brief chat about why it's important for us to be grateful in all things, because honestly, the position of gratitude. Hey, Karen Ralph says, hi, Brian. Hey, Karen, how are you? Good to see you. Let's see, Jessica Calderon is here. Kimberly Kristen is here. Ursula is here. Anna Anderson is here. Sweet. How you doing, ladies? Good to see you. Uh-oh. Says that there's an error with my live stream on my computer, but clearly it's working because it's working on my phone. And I'm talking to all of you, so I don't know why the feed failed on YouTube. But you know what? I'm really not worried about the feed. As long as it's working for you guys, it does not need to work for me. I don't need to look at myself. I need to be talking to all of you guys. So one of the things I asked everybody to do last night on the live call was to send me questions that you had. And we did get one. Reconnect. What's the problem? Hold on, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know what the problem is here. So are we back on? Facebook just completely cut. So this is one of the beautiful things about my internet service provider. Maybe it's net neutrality has kicked in, because Lord knows that my signal will drop at the drop of a hat. And it has dropped over here. I don't know if it's dropped for you guys. For now, we'll leave Facebook off until we can get up and running. So, it works, the streaming is buffered, I will hang this. So it may be buffered because it's my fault. But let me, for those of you who are still on YouTube, tell me if you can see me. Hey, Grace, can you see and hear me? Because I have nothing going on. My signal is dead where I'm at, and I'm trying to get it re-established. Hey, are you guys streaming upstairs? No. X. Where's X, man? I don't know. Go find out. And make sure he's not streaming. You guys should be in the bed anyway. All right. Okay, so Grace and Luz tell me they can see me. Kimberly says she can see me. Excellent. Internet is still down on my computer, though. My internet service provider is such a pain. Never had these issues with my previous provider. But I don't know. Verizon I've always had issues with. But the problem is I've moved to a place that doesn't have my previous provider. So I'm stuck with Verizon. Yay. Never been a fan of Verizon service. All right, so it says it's connecting, so I'll be back online with you guys here shortly. You know, I'm talking about thanking your struggles. Here we are. Thank you for my internet not working. All right, we'll leave the Facebook feed off for now. Well, now let's see if we can get it back on. Let's see if we can get it back up. So sorry for the technical difficulties, friends. We'll get back in business here shortly. There we go. I'm not even going to give a description now that the internet is back up. It says I'm live. It says I have a very bad connection. I don't know how, because I'm sitting next to my router. And the signal, according to my computer, says it's magical. Okay, so I think we're back in good shape. Now I will pop out my chat. So like I said, we're going to do an open Q&A here tonight. I will probably talk about several different topics, but the theme for tonight, this being kind of the Thanksgiving season, is about gratitude and how gratitude is so absolutely necessary for us to have if indeed we want to succeed in pretty much anything that we want to do, right? So let me go through the comments here, make sure I didn't miss anything. Lou says, hi, Bryant, be sure your phones are fully charged. Yes, my phones are fully charged and plugged into a wall, so if they die this time, it's just iPhone. Let's see. Grace says, I see you. Yes. Yep. Both yes. Debbie Cobb says, hi, I see you and hear you. Awesome. Hey, Debbie. How you doing? Rochelle Gordon says, yes, I hear you and see you. Says, Siren of the Void. I like that name, Siren of the Void. Angela Watkins says, I can. Yeah. LOL. Signal's a bit laggy. It's skipped a bit, but nothing major. So the signal should be good to go now. I'm no longer getting messages telling me that my signal sucks. But now that we got it up and running, let's jump right in. As always, you can just start to type your questions in the feed. You don't have to wait for like a Q&A section of tonight's discussion. This is open to the public. I do these calls specifically because many of you have questions for me that I don't always get answered by producing videos. And so this gives us an opportunity to answer especially some of the more nuanced questions you have about self-awareness, about personality type, about career, about relationships, and generally about success and how do you overcome fear? How do you overcome procrastination? How do you overcome insecurities? How do you overcome the fact that you don't feel confident? You know, all these things are not unique. We all to some degree struggle with these challenges, right? And we may struggle with them in different ways. Our circumstances may be slightly different and we may be different people. But being human, we're all pretty much prone to the same challenges. And when you read as much as I do, you start to figure out that these challenges have been pervasive since the beginning of time, or at least since the beginning of recorded time. Who knows what it was like before that. But I want to help address some of that for you all. I want to help be able to be a voice of encouragement, a voice of inspiration, of motivation, a person that helps you build that confidence that you're looking for. We just did a coaching call with my students, my clients in the Peak Performance coaching program that I run. We covered this book today in pretty great detail. On Facebook, this is going to look backwards because Facebook is ridiculous. On YouTube, it will actually look right. The Obstacle is the Way, The Timeless Art of Turning Trials into Triumph. And it's by Ryan Holiday, who's a really interesting guy and author. Luminar, good to see you, my friend. Still up and kicking, man. I'm proud of you. And so it's an interesting book because it's really about perspective and how most of us look at our struggles the wrong way. We get resentful. And I just posted on Facebook a picture of this that I took and kind of doctored a little bit, trying to make it look pretty. But I talked about one of the things that I'm most grateful for this holiday season is the struggles that I've had over the last 2 years, right? Personal struggles, coming to grips with a lot of the depression and anxiety that I was dealing with, that I was either unaware of or maybe even unconsciously, subconsciously suppressing because I wanted to maintain my toughness and not be vulnerable, which I've learned for decades that vulnerability is true toughness. Expressing when you're weak is when other people can help you strong. It's like one of my advisors, Colonel Dave Grossman, who wrote the book On Killing, which is on the shelf behind me. This book right there. And then for Facebook, that book right there. You know, in the book he talked, in fact, it wasn't in that book. It was in his book On Combat, where he talks about pain shared is pain divided. And that's a really, really powerful statement. And it's something that took me a lot of years. Like, I did not come online into believing that. Like, I thought I had to do everything on my own. I had to be strong. I had to, you know, figure things out on my own and not ask for help because I didn't want to. I was insecure and I was prideful. Really, we think it's insecurity when we don't ask for help, but it's really pride. We don't want to be humble and ask for help because we don't want people to know that we're struggling, because it'll challenge the image that we have of ourselves. When truth be told, true strength comes from that vulnerability. Mary Magdalene says, yes, that's good. Absolutely. So coming to grips with some of those things and just dealing with, you know, my son was born in January of this year and then immediately needed surgery and then had a seizure, and, you know, I had to be taken away in an ambulance, and then needed a second surgery, which we just finished last week. So you can imagine 9 months of, or I'm sorry, he was born in January of 2016, not January this year. Just almost 2 years of just straight up nonstop doctor's appointments. And that weighs on you. It weighs because a baby is helpless and you want to be able to help him. And when you feel like that you're not in a position to do that, you're praying and hoping that things turn out okay. And by the way, they did. They turned out almost miraculously. But that could be very challenging, you know. And then losing my dad on top of that. And I don't say all those things to make you sad or to make you feel sorry for me. I say those things because on the other side of all of those struggles, I'm very grateful, because it's made my family stronger. You know, losing my dad was very hard, but it also put us in a position where we realized we need to come even closer together than we already are. You know, my family, compared to most families of the people that I talk to, even with our struggles and our imperfections and our challenges, is awesome. And Dad passing caused that bond to be even tighter and to really make us evaluate where we are in our lives, and are we carrying Dad's legacy forward properly? You know, are we doing justice and paying proper respect to the blood, literally sweat and tears that my father put into changing the world and changing our lives for the better? Are we doing the same things for our families to carry that forward? So I am very grateful for the struggles. I'm grateful for my insecurities. I'm grateful for my shortcomings, because they force me to realize that I can't do any of this alone. You know, this BryantChambers movement, I called it that, not because it's about me moving. The movement is us. That's why I sign off every video with "we are stronger than I," right? Because I can't do what I am working to do alone. I can't reach billions of people without your help and spreading the word, right? And sharing with people, hey, there's this guy that's sharing some pretty awesome, powerful stuff on the internet, and we should probably be paying attention to him because he understands things, because he's been through so many things and seen so many things and had mentors who've seen even more that have helped him, and he's paying that forward. So I want you all to be part of the movement for me to, and us to, change the world and change it for the better. I don't mean it like in a cliche, we're going to change. I mean legitimately. One of the first things I'm working to disrupt right now is our education system. You know, I get on my soapbox very often, and I did this with a friend of mine this week. I was talking to her, and I just said, look, I was talking to her about how our education system is fundamentally screwed. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, tell me what your state flower was. And she was able to tell me. And then I said, now tell me what the time value of money is. She couldn't. She had never heard of it. And I didn't do that to her to make her feel bad or to make her feel like she lacked knowledge. I just did it to illustrate a point, which this is a person who's going to be looking to retire probably in the next 12 years. She needs to understand the time value of money and how that's going to affect her in retirement, right? And how it's going to affect her husband and her children. That's something that's important. And then one of the other people that was in the conversation was like, yeah, that's one of my favorite things that I learned in graduate school. And then I looked at her and I said, you see, he had to go to graduate school to learn that. In our American system, you should have been taught that in the 4th or the 5th grade. But we don't learn those things because people that are deciding what we are to be educated in are people that are perpetuating a system that's outlived its utility. Our public school system was originally started before America was founded for the raising of soldiers, to be able to quickly train people to go and robotically fight in wars. And then we repurposed it for the American education system. And part of our education system coming into play was also not just making us smart, it was indoctrinating us with quote unquote American values. That's why you say the Pledge of Allegiance in school. I don't know if they still do that. But you do that because at the time there were a lot of Germans, or what we called the Dutch, here. And we wanted to make sure that we were instilling people with American values. Okay, so the motivations behind our education system, while not any less noble, they don't fit in the modern world. We're not trying to raise a nation of soldiers, you know, and it worked fairly well up through probably the 1950s and 60s because it did help people prepare them for working in factories. But we don't do that. We have robots. Like if you've seen the Amazon factory, it's robots that do what humans used to do. So we don't need people who can just blindly follow orders, follow instructions, sit quietly and raise your hand and ask to be recognized. We need people who can think critically and problem solve and not just memorize formulas. Now, inevitably, I get teachers that come on my calls, and sometimes they'll get a little bit frustrated with me because they think I'm talking about them. Let me be very clear. If you're a teacher, my wife was a teacher, you could argue that what I'm doing here means I'm one too. But I am not in any way, shape, or form disrespecting what teachers do. Let me make that clear. The teachers who I grew up with, many of which I am still friends with today, fundamentally changed my life for the better because they went above and beyond the system is what I am taking issue with. I'm working to disrupt the system. So I have nothing but the utmost respect for teachers because you're talking about people who sacrifice a great deal of money to raise our kids. And I mean raise. Your kids spend 8 to 9 hours a day in a building with other people. They're being raised there. And when you have a good teacher, and I remember all my teachers that were good teachers. I do. I remember their names. I remember the things that they taught me. I remember getting in trouble and thrown out of class when I was acting up because they were trying to make me into a better person. So I respect the sacrifice, just like I would respect the sacrifice of a soldier, a law enforcement person, a fire department person, any of that, right? That is a sacrifice. I watch my wife make less money than my son can make cutting grass, to work hard to teach children that she deeply cared about. We still have relationships. Some of these kids are grown now. They're adults, right? She taught in middle school, and these people are in their 20s, pushing 30s now, and we still have them in our lives. These are people that we're still connected with because of the impact that my wife had on their lives. And that's powerful. So if you're a teacher and you feel like I am harping on you, I am not. I understand what it means to stay up till 12 midnight grading papers, right? And you don't get time off to recoup that and to have to be up the next morning and back at school. Work for a teacher never stops. So let me make it clear, if I haven't already, that I have a great deal of respect and I honor the teachers that do what they do. What I don't honor is bureaucrats who keep our system stagnant and don't let it evolve into a way. And we start telling people that our kids have learning disabilities because they're having trouble paying attention in school. I don't know. My son does a great job paying attention to Minecraft for 6 hours. Maybe that's because Minecraft, Marcus Pearson, figured something out that the schools refuse to adopt, which is how to get people's attention. We live in a world of what's called evolutionary mismatch. In other words, our brains have not kept up with how fast society has evolved. We still think like people thought 5,000 years ago, which means we focus on scarcity. It's why the news is so negative all the time, because it's playing on your biology and your psychology to sell you Viagra and AARP ads in the commercials. And they know that we are wired to pay attention to negativity and fear, versus we live with access to more resources than we've ever had on the planet, but we're still teaching people how to think like it's famine. And so we don't realize how good we do have it, right? And so the bureaucrats are happy to keep things moving along that line. Why? Because it's very hard to change. But just because it's hard doesn't mean it doesn't have to happen. So instead of fighting with the schools, or, I had a friend who was a principal of a school, and she told me, you need to get on the boards of some of these schools. And I told her, maybe. I said, but for now, I'll just go into people's homes and teach them directly. I'll go into people's homes and empower them with information that can fundamentally change their lives, that they can then go and apply to their lives and start to get results immediately. Hence the BryantChambers movement. Okay, so again, I'm not in any way criticizing teachers, because frankly, I had a lot of teachers that learned, for example, like I always talk about how I was barely a C student. I wasn't very good in school. I grew up thinking I was dumb. And a lot of people come on my channel like, you're so intelligent. And I'm like, I'm not really all that intelligent. I read a lot more than most people, which is why I know more things. But I don't know that I'm naturally more intelligent than the average person. Maybe I am. But when I was going through school, I didn't think that about myself because I was failing so much. But then inevitably I would get teachers that kind of broke the status quo, and they could break through to the way my brain worked and teach me. How does a kid get D's in algebra? Now, if you understand anything about math, and I'm a computer scientist, that's a lot of math, right? How do you get D's in algebra and then get A's in calculus? Because algebra is really just an introduction to calculus. So how do you get D's your freshman year in algebra, and you get A's, not every semester, but you get A's in calculus your senior year? You do that because you have a teacher that understands that not everybody learns the same way. Different people have different learning tendencies. And so that's why I work to do what I do. And it's not just about I'm trying to disrupt the school. What I'm trying to disrupt is the fact that you're not getting access to information that you really need to live your life the way you want to and to truly be happy. You're not learning that in school. You didn't learn about the time value of money in school. I don't know. Maybe you went to a school where they did teach that. So let me not make a blanket statement. But all that said, bringing it full circle back to tonight's topic, and I see a lot of you are commenting. I'm going to get into the comments here in a second. Let me just really wrap up this Thanksgiving season with telling you how grateful I am, not just for my struggles and for the pain, because it's just like weightlifting. The pain is when you know you're growing, right? And most of us are adverse to pain, so we don't go through any of it, and therefore we don't grow and we don't get what we want. But now if you're willing to go through some pain, you can totally get what you want if you're willing to go through a little bit of pain. And that's what I'm grateful for, is having people that have been teaching me that. I told people on my peak performance coaching call today. So when I talk about peak performance, I run a coaching program, which is a product/service that I sell on my website, where people get one-on-one group coaching from me, similar to what we're doing here, except I'm actually talking back and forth with people, not talking into a camera and then reading comments. And we have a curriculum that we take people through that's predicated on, sorry, Facebook, this is going to be backwards, but YouTube, you'll get it. The art of war is kind of, it's not the only thing we study, but the thesis is the general that knows themselves and knows their enemy is never in danger of losing a battle. Okay, and I'm paraphrasing it because the way Sun Tzu says it is a little bit different. For those of you who may be sticklers and have read the book, Peter Cole, haven't logged into YouTube yet. Hey, Peter, how you doing? But the philosophy there is, I'm going to help you become violently self-aware, intensely self-aware. Then I'm going to help you understand your environment, understand the world that you find yourself in, and understand why you're encountering resistance, and then help you destroy those things and adapt to the environment the way you need to win. And we were talking today about maintaining the proper perspective and maintaining the heart of gratitude, because you can't be grateful and bitter and depressed and resentful at the same time. And nobody bitter, depressed, and resentful is winning at anything. You're just not. You're not in a state of mind that's going to cause you to get people to want to be around you, right? And so we talked about how do we keep things in the proper perspective, which is the main thesis of this book, which is one of the 2 books we taught out of today. And this is I read this book all the time. It's such a great book, man. One of the books we didn't talk about on the call because I forgot to mention it, and I'll share it with you guys here, and hopefully the people in my program will see me talk about. But when they get the syllabus, they'll see it. The Awaken the Giant Within. I know there's a glare over here, Facebook. Let me block the light so you can see it. Awaken the Giant Within. Look how young Tony Robbins looks. I went and found, there's this beautiful used bookstore in the neighborhood where I used to live. It's not where I got this. I actually got this on Amazon because I love hardcover books. I love them. Like, I'm really hard on things. I'm heavy-handed and I break stuff. So hardcover books I bought this book, I don't remember. It wasn't that long ago. I've listened to this before, but I decided to buy the book too because this is another book we taught out of today. And it's already got phrase and ripping and got pages that are ripped because it's the soft cover. With hardcovers, I don't have that problem. So anyway, to wrap up the Thanksgiving spirit here, it's just really about maintaining a center of gratitude, because from gratitude comes every good work, everything that you want to do, and keeping your mind in the right frame so that you can actually go out and succeed. Being thankful for your struggles, and more importantly, having the proper perspective to understand that your life is amazing. If you were born in one of the free world countries, you weren't born with a terminal disease, you know what Starbucks is. Like, your life is more amazing than you probably recognize. For my YouTubers, I tell them all the time, like, if you have 50,000 people following you, we look at that because of the contrast bias that our brain struggles with. We look at 50,000 followers as, oh, that guy's a small channel. And he's not big like PewDiePie. But do you know how hard it was even 100 years ago for 50,000 people to even know who you were? Think about that for a second. 100 years ago, most people didn't know 50,000 people. And if you have even 10,000 people showing up to watch you do something, that's freaking amazing. And the problem is we look at everyone else that has 1 million and we're like, well, I should have 1 million too. Instead of being grateful for, like, yo, if you look at me, I have, just on YouTube, I have over 20,000 people that follow what I do. That's huge. Now, you'll compare me to other YouTubers and say, well, that's not huge. That's small. Well, okay, but it's huge to me because I got 20,000 people paying attention to what I'm doing. And by the way, I have 20,000 people paying attention to what I'm doing, not just consuming mindless entertainment, which, by the way, I'm not knocking mindless entertainment. I think it's necessary at times. I think as Americans especially, we overvalue entertainment. We put way too much value and time into entertainment instead of developing ourselves. But again, that's one of the things that I'm working to disrupt. I'm working to help you understand how to make learning fun, because school beat it out of you. School in no way, shape, or form made you a lifelong learner. You couldn't wait to get, I couldn't wait till school was over. When I left college, I was like, never again. Never, ever, ever again will I go back to school, which interestingly enough wasn't true. I went to the Wharton School of Business to learn gamification. And what I learned was when I can learn on my terms, on my time, and learn the subjects I want to learn at my pace, I have fun with it. But when I get told, this is the curriculum, this is what you have to study, this is what you have to know, you got to be here at 7 o'clock, blah, 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 it beats and you're trying to study 17 different classes at once and not really getting any of them. When I can just study one class at a time and really digest it and take it in. And now I have a greater understanding from a business perspective, because our project at the end of the class was we had to gamify for the mayor, I think, of Chicago, a fitness program. And how would we gamify that to get the city involved in lowering obesity? And like, that's a great practical exercise to think about how, like, it led me to understand how can I gamify what I do in the education space? How can I make this fun for people? You know, on my first channel, I used to give out points for people who could get movie references that, because I would, when I was improving and doing entertainment, kind of, I'd call it edutainment slash inspirtainment. I would just quote random movies being funny and say, if you can name, and it would always be some obscure movie like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And I'm like, if you know that reference, you get 10 points. Now, inevitably, one of my friends would watch the video, someone that knows me in real life, and be like, that's Bill and Ted's, because we all watch the same movies. Okay? So be thankful, be grateful, because that is a catalyst that's going to fundamentally change your life. And that's really at the heart of what we spent a lot of time talking about today, which, by the way, if you're interested, before this call is over, I'll share with you how you can get access to the different coaching programs that I have that may be applicable for you, to really help you. I mean, my focus is helping you lay the foundation for success, because what most people do is they buy into tips and tricks and gimmicks and, oh, now I need to learn how to code. You don't need to learn how to code, for God's sake. Like, the whole world needs to learn how to code. No, you don't, because in 10 years, the computer's going to be programming themselves. But, and that's coming from a person who can code. I don't want you learning how to code if that's not what you're good at and not what'll get you out of bed. Like, I have a friend in my life right now that's all she wants to do is write algorithms. She lives it. That's who should learn how to code, because she can get better at it than everybody because she loves it. And she enjoys the process of the puzzle solving that is writing computer code and writing scripts and blah, blah, blah. I want you to be able to discover what the thing is you should really be doing, and then empower you to actually go out and get it. And one of the things that's unique about the way I coach is I don't just believe in philosophy. I think philosophy is great. I think philosophy is necessary. I think philosophy is just delicious, for lack of a better word. But philosophy is nothing without understanding how to do practical application of the philosophy. So when I talk about you need to change your mindset, that is the first video we do in our coaching. It's the first call we do in our coaching program. But if I just tell you the benefits of changing your mindset and what changing your mindset means and how to frame things properly, and we talk about limiting beliefs and empowering beliefs, if we just talk about those things at a philosophical level, that doesn't help you. Me getting in and showing you, and this is one of the things I love about Tony Robbins, because he's very much the same. He'll tell you you need to do all these things, and then he'll walk you through specifically step by step how he does it. And I model what I do, and what I do is modeled after the military. So they teach you the philosophy and the reasoning behind everything. The military is one of the best organizations at teaching you why you do what you do. So why sometimes we soldiers, when we go into the civilian world, we struggle a little bit, because the civilian world oftentimes does not care so much about why, but we live why. And so you understand why we do this, but then you go out and actually practice it with someone who's done it 100,000 times already. So you're learning the practical, and then you go out there and you make the mistakes and you do it wrong, but you're in an environment where you're supposed to get it wrong so you can learn. You're not like, oh, you failed the test, that means you can't be soldier. Bye. like in school where you fail the test, you're just screwed. Out there, you fail so that you can learn from those mistakes and get better at it. And one of the most beautiful things you'll hear in special forces training, for example, especially the SEALs are very big about, and it's not just the SEALs, SWAT teams apply this philosophy. It's never let a loser leave the battlefield. And what that means is when you're training when you're a soldier or a police officer is designed to make you fail. It's designed to make the circumstances so horrible for you that it's impossible for you to overcome the challenge. The reason behind that is because they want you to have it so bad that when you get into a real life situation, like I remember in combat, one of my boys, I was thinking it, but I was too scared to say it out loud. And he's like, yo, B, why does this feels easier than some of the training we did? It was the reality, because we had had the literal shiza kicked out of us. By the time we got to war, it was like, oh, this is, I mean, they're shooting real bullets at us, but it's no harder than we'd stay in the desert for 14 hours in 130-degree heat. And, you know, in war, you took breaks. Like, it was like, and not every day wasn't easy. There is no easy day. But the point there is you train so hard that when you do the real thing, it's easier, right? And so we went through a lot of that training, but you get beat down and beat down and beat down. But before the training exercise is over, the instructors walk you through, okay, now finish the mission and win, right? They're not let you win. They just take the claws out of your back for 5 minutes so you can get through the mission and actually accomplish it. So what it does is it doesn't allow you to get into what's called learned helplessness, where you're beat down and beat down and beat down and beat down, right? To the point where you just live in beat down. Like you're beat down and beat down, but then they let you win so that you don't get it in your mind that you're a loser, okay? So the same thing works with my coaching program. While I'm not beating anybody down, we are working very hard, and I'm giving people a ton of information and then lots of homework to go out and do, which is very hard. But it's so that when they go to apply it to real life after week 4, we'll be finished with our pilot program. And then in January is when we start our next call, which, by the way, we're only letting 15 people in. So if you're interested, you need to act now, because I think we've got 12 or 11 slots left, and it's still somewhat early. But what'll happen is, I guarantee you what's going to happen is people are kind of dancing around it now. Like we've got, I think it's either 12 or 11 slots left, right? People are dancing, oh, I'll do that later. And then you're going to pull the I'm going to do it later card, and then everyone else is going to pick a day and be like, I'm in. And then there's not going to be any spots. And we don't, and it's not like false scarcity, like hurry up and get in because you'll never have another chance. That's ridiculous. What I'm saying to you is don't drag your feet. If you're interested, get it done now. And my chat window just crashed. What is that about? I hope it didn't lose all of y'all's comments, because that is seriously going to irritate me. Let's see. Stand by, guys and ladies. Okay, good. All the comments are still here because a lot of you have been asking questions and I've seen it. I just haven't responded yet. So if you're interested, let's talk either during this call toward the end after I get through some of the questions, or we can talk on Facebook. I can chat with you. I can even freaking Google chat or Skype with you if you need to, if you have questions about getting into the program. But that said, that's what we focus on doing, is not just giving you the philosophy, the he who knows himself and his enemy won't be in danger. Well, how do I do that? How do I know myself? We walk you through it. How do I know my enemy? We walk you through it. How do I address my enemy? We walk you through it. We tell you that you got to do it. Philosophy, religion, put a label on it. But then there's the practical application. Just like when you're going through leadership training, you have what's called applied leadership. You're not just reading a bunch of, like, no one should expect to read a bunch of leadership books and then be a good leader. Reading is fundamentally necessary to be successful. I'm not discounting that. However, until you have practical application, you know nothing, because the real world often plays differently than what's written in that book, and you have to make adjustments based on your personality, the circumstances, and everything else that's going on around you. All right? So with that said, we're grateful. Everybody's grateful. I've seen a ton of comments come in, so I don't know how I'm going to catch up tonight, but I'm going to try to get through all of them. Let's see, where did I leave off? So it cut off at Cody Knapp's comment. Just hearing you talk about this stuff is so great, man. New to your videos, but you far exceeded any expectation. Made a huge impact for me, if nobody else. Thank you and keep it up. Thank you, Cody. That means the world for me to hear those things. Thank you so much. Eternal Night says, good to see you live. You've been an inspirational man in my life. Sweet. Have to go, but I'm looking forward to seeing new great content soon, and there will be. Thank you, Eternal Night. That's a blessing to hear. Kimberly says, hi, Bryant. I feel like I am ready in my head to start my life coaching practice, but I'm procrastinating because I'm nervous about charging people for my services. What can I do to get over that? Coach the first few people for free. Angela Watkins. And by the way, I've taken my own advice. You couldn't believe in some cases how many people are in some of my programs and they're there for free. You know, some of my first customers are people I never charged. Angela Watkins, I am grateful I found peace with the fact that I have bipolar. It will be lifelong, but it's not impossible to manage. It took me a long time to accept it. I know all about accepting shortcomings, Angela. Good on you. I'm proud of you. That takes a lot of courage. That's one of my greatest weaknesses, is accepting something that I don't like. So good for you. Taj Marie says, I lost my dad in December of last year. My heart goes out to you. May he rest in peace. And may your family find peace knowing that he is in your future, not in your past. Kimberly says, wow, I'm praying for your son. I could not imagine dealing with a child that is ill. You have such a great attitude about it, and I admire you for that. Thank you. Thankfully, my son's doing good now. He's good. And, you know, honestly, one of the things that keeps me going is my faith. All right. And it's actually proven scientifically, by the way, by atheist psychologists, that people who have faith in God, or put a label, whatever label you want to put on it, actually statistically live with more peace and more happiness. You know, some people would argue that happiness is a delusion, but you're still happier. So, you know, life is an illusion, at least according to Albert Einstein. Let's see. Ursula says, I have had to sell everything I own. Sometimes I do not have food. Taxes on house not paid, and house is now up for sale. I think God is forcing me to make a drastic change. I shared you with my son. Hey, Ursula, why don't you get into my coaching program? And I don't mean, Ursula, let's talk on Facebook about getting you in there, okay? And I'm not trying to take any money from you. Let's see if we can get you in there, because I may be able to at least impart something to you that's helpful. All right, let's see if we can make some room for you in the program. I don't want anybody starving out there. If I can help you, you know, some of you need a kick in the butt, so I don't offer free stuff for it. But if you're out there and your life is falling apart, let's see if I can help you out. Luminarch says, amen, brother. We are sharpened by steel. Yeah, I like that statement. I understand the struggle of bad health. I cannot imagine being able to communicate about it. Yeah, man. I know you better than anybody know it, brother. And I'm proud that you're still kicking with us, man. Hang tough. Kimberly says, that is so great. If you need any help with that, because I am available. Luce says, yes, our educational system needs a huge overhaul. They definitely need to learn life skills. So I'm past the point of trying to change the school system. What's going to happen is we're going to render it irrelevant. People like me, you know, people like Tony Robbins, is like, he was the originator. You could argue that some preachers who actually educate people were the originators. The internet is going to commoditize school. Actually, in my opinion, it already has. And we'll still go through the motions because it's the American way to maintain the status quo, or our current weakness is one way to translate status quo. And we have bureaucratic systems that are incentivized to maintain the status quo because it's easy, right? We don't like change. We like to keep things the same. But, you know, what kids are going to figure out is, yeah, I'll go to school for a couple hours, but then I'll go learn from Brian, or I'll go learn from Tim Schmoyer how to build a YouTube channel, or I'll go learn from Ty Lopez how to start a social media agency, or I'll learn from JT Fox how to be a public speaker. They'll just go get the training and go do what they want to do. Like, school will just become a thing that they go and do. Like, that's basically the way I'm training my kids, is go to school, do well, work hard, but when you get home, I'll teach you the real stuff. You know, and let me be clear. It's not that the school is not teaching real stuff. There is good, pertinent information that's being taught at schools, okay? Not all of it is useless, but the state bird is freaking useless. All right. Let's see. Anna says, I'm an educator and I completely agree. Excellent. I've gotten through a call without pissing off a teacher, which usually doesn't happen that way. Dan and Carrie Lauren say, agree. Anna says, gonna catch a thumb cramp, but totally worth it for this awesome opportunity. I'm an INFP to the core. What is your advice for standing up for myself when I'm dismissed during conflict? So when it comes to conflict or confrontation 101, ooh, Samantha Chong says, knowledge bombs, love your content. Thank you for sharing your voice. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you for commenting. That was over on Facebook. I get a lot less comments on Facebook, so I like to recognize the people who leave them. All right. So for Anna, conflict and then confrontation 101. Keep it impersonal. One of the reasons why we struggle to confront people is because of the emotional nature of humanity and our tendency to personalize things. So if I go to my wife and I say, you made me angry when you did this, that's incorrect. I made me angry. Nobody on this earth can make you angry. In fact, the next pillar in the 69 pillars of success that I'm going to film is a video called You Are What You Answer To. Okay? So when we have to take personal responsibility for the way we feel in an insecure situation. We have to take responsibility for it. If I am angry, it's my fault. If I am sad, it's my fault, because it's not what the person is doing to me, it's the way that I'm perceiving it. When you get to that level, the next thing you can do is depersonalize. I know this is not a word, but you get it. You can take the personal nature out of it. So instead of me pointing the finger saying at my wife, you made me mad when you did this, I can say, hey, babe, when you did this thing, I got angry because this. So now she understands that my anger has nothing to do with her personally. It has everything to do with the fact that she took an action, and then I'm, as always, especially with a wife, I'm assuming noble intent. So babe, I believe that you did not intend to hurt me when you did X. But when you did X, I then began to feel this way because I perceived it this way. Now, I'm assuming you didn't mean to intentionally hurt me, but I just wanted to let you know that when you did that, I became angry. So now it takes all of the fault off of her. She's not feeling like she did something to make me angry. I'm telling her I feel how I feel regardless, but what she did was a catalyst in the equation. And so now we can have a dialogue about, oh, I'm sorry, when I did X, I actually meant Z. And you took it as Y. And I can say, oh, okay, I thought so. I assumed as much, but you know, I'd really like it if you could not do X, or we could have some other way of communicating that. So one of the reasons why confrontation is so hard is because we have been taught to accuse people and come at people. And then when we accuse people, they immediately get defensive and we're afraid of a fight. There never has to be a fight if you keep it impersonal and you keep it objective, where it's like a thing happened, I got angry. Now, you did the thing. I'm not blaming you. I'm assuming that you meant well, but the thing you did kind of hurt my feelings, right? Like when you did that, my feelings got hurt. And I'd like it if you just didn't do that. And then she could say, well, when I did that, I was actually thinking about this. And I could say, oh, you know what? I didn't even look at it that way. I guess I probably shouldn't have had my feelings hurt. I should have given you the benefit of the doubt. Okay. So, and that works with anything. Even when someone is intentionally doing something to you, you can check them and say, hey, look, I respect where you're coming from, but I really feel that the way you're talking to me and your tone, it feels very disrespectful. Now, I'm not saying you're intentionally trying to disrespect me, but that's the way it feels. So can we adjust this a little bit so that we can both get along and do what we have to do? Make sense? Shane says, okay, at Ursula, he's never owned a home. The education system is actually getting worse, says Taj Marie. As a lecturer, the past academic year, I have found that students today do not even write notes anymore. Well, that's because we don't let them use their phones, because they'd write notes till their thumbs fell off if we let them take them on their phones, right? Or just let them record you talking. Mimi Robinson says, no, Shane, don't feel like that. Mimi says she's late. Anna says, got one RT now. It's FUBAR. Real talk. See. Lou says, Taj Marie, I'm a technical trainer, and adults show up in my class with nothing to write on, even a pen. Yeah, that is kind of sad. That is kind of sad right there. Taj Marie says, we need courses in life skills such as finance and home buying. Yes, we do. Parenting and relationships. I'm taking care of that one. I have not gone deep into the parenting one, but I will eventually. And my wife and I, we launched a marriage program. It did not get the traction we wanted at all, and it was totally my fault. I marketed it very poorly. It was too broad. It needed to be more focused. And so we've talked internally about when we relaunch it, it's going to have a much different focus for a very, very tiny niche. We'll serve that niche as long as we can, and then eventually we'll grow it from there. So that's coming. That won't launch before 2018, and depending on how 2018 goes, maybe even 2019 before we get that off the ground. Time and stress management. Yep, we actually do time management in week 0 of my coaching program. I make everybody do an exercise that they don't have to share with the group, but it exposes. I love exposing people that tell me they don't have time for stuff. Yeah, and I just say, okay, do this inventory. Take a look at it. Do you still not have time? They're like, never mind. Career planning and leadership, yeah, and we cover all those things in my. We cover all that stuff on the YouTube channel, but I do it one-on-one with the individual in the Peak Performance Coaching Program. Mimi Robinson says, Shane, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you are probably right, says Henry Ford. I love that quote. Shane says, I'm glad I have you all and Bryant. Sweet. Anna says, preach at Taj Marie. Dan and Carrie Lawrence say, my son is on the spectrum, but he also is skipping a full grade because he's so intelligent. Sweet. Congrats. Ursula says, we give stuff to teachers because they are expected to buy extra stuff to do interesting projects with their own money. Yeah, that's insane. Like, in my wife's school, they didn't even give the kids books. Like, that was why my friend was like, you need to be on the board at this school because you need to talk some sense into these rich people that just started a school in the hood so they can feel good about helping black kids. Did I say that out loud? Sorry. My honesty kicked in. God love my wife for working in that place, trying to help some kids that society is just, sorry. Did I suck the wind out of the room with that one? Oopsie. Say, Dan says, we ENTJs love knowledge. Lou says, Taj Marie, I agree, it's very sad. Ursula says, my boss draws pics in the dirt to help me understand instructions. Taj Marie says, to answer your question, Bryant, it has to do with the context in which math is taught. Some teachers can teach math in an intuitive way. Others can't. Yeah, and so my math teacher that made me get it was actually a Mensa genius. This guy invented, like, this is a true story. This is insane. In calculus, you get an introduction to what's called linear algebra. And that's a class as a computer scientist that you take in great depth. It's not easy, but he literally made up his own formula for linear algebra. Like how to solve matrix multiplication problems, which if you don't know what matrix multiplication is, look it up. It's insane. I probably couldn't even do it anymore because it's been so long. And so he showed us this formula on how to do matrix multiplication. What we didn't know at the time is the formula he was using, he made up. Like, he's that level. Like, people talk about me being intelligent. I ain't making up math formulas, all right? So when I got to college and I took linear algebra from a teacher that barely spoke English, and he was teaching it, and I was watching him do all this stuff on the board, and I'm like, this dude, what is he doing? And I was like, Doctor, I can't remember his name. You always remember the teachers' names that had an impact on you. Clearly, this gentleman did not. I said, Doc, why are you doing all that? Now, keep in mind, I am not aware of the fact that this formula my teacher made up isn't the normal way to do it. I was like, Doc, why are you doing, like, the process you're doing to solve this matrix is insane. Like, you're doing way more work than you have to. And he was like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, and I walked him through it. I just talked him through how to solve the problem. He couldn't follow me. He's like, you come up to the board and solve the problem then, since you're so smart. I said, okay, bet. It's 16, and I went and sat back down. He looked at the board, and he was like, Holy crap, that's right. How did you do that? And it was funny because all my friends sitting in desks, when I went back to my chair, they all did this. Teach us how to do that. Right? So he knew how to teach math in a way that you're correct. It was very intuitive and easy to pick up. And it wasn't, hey, Chambers, he always called me Chambers. Memorize this formula, Chambers. That's how he'd say it. He didn't make me memorize a formula. He made me understand the concept. Yes, sir. School needs to have more life skills. Agreed. Joshua says, managing oneself is a great book to help you guys understand what is your learning tendency. Respect to the teachers. This is very true. Hi, Mr. Chambers. It's a pleasure. Joshua, the pleasure is all mine. And yes, Managing Oneself by Peter F. Drucker, in accordance with the Harvard Business School, is an amazing book. It's actually the first book I recommend on my book list. It's also the first book that Ty Lopez recommends on his book list. We have that book in common. Ursula, I must be growing huge. Mimi says, I agree. Dan says, I hear you. Anna says, I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Chambers. You can call me Bryant. I don't know what this Mr. Chambers stuff is about. I appreciate the respect, but, you know, no need. Brian will do, or B. If you enjoy calling me Mr. Chambers, it doesn't offend me. I just think it's funny when people call me that. Jessica says, speaking of personality type, can someone please explain to me why my test quiz result in both ENTJ and INTJ? Jessica, I'd be happy to explain that to you. 50% or more of the people who test in the Myers-Briggs test do not test the same. It's one of the reasons why the science community doesn't like the test as a means to categorize a human being, because the test doesn't have consistency. 50% or more of people that take it today will test differently when they take it in a month or a year. Now, part of that's due to the fact that the way the questions are designed, we tend to want to answer the way we want to be perceived instead of answering honestly. And so from test to test, our answers may change, because rest assured, the questions you are answering are binary questions. When you get home from work, do you like to go to happy hour with your friends, or do you like to stay at home and read a book? It's a binary question. If you answer stay at home and read a book, you get a point in the introvert column. If you said go out with your friends, you get a point in the extrovert column. And the test surmises that you are either an extrovert or an introvert. You can't be both. You have to be one or the other. But what if someone tests as just 1 point above introversion? Is that the same type of extrovert as me, who tests 2 points from the max? No, of course not. So the test has some very strong fundamental flaws. What I would say to you is, don't get too hung up in trying to figure out which one of the 16 cute little boxes you're supposed to fit into. Read the types, see what actually applies to you, and throw out the rest, right? Because you understanding your personality is as much about self-actualization as it is a test telling you exactly what you are. Right? At the end of the day, if you perceive yourself to be fill in the blank, that's your reality. Right? So I would also look into the cognitive functions of both types. Chances are when you take the test, you're borderline between introvert and extrovert. And depending on how you answer the questions, because your emotional state can affect that, you answer one way, you get I. You answer one way, you get E. I wouldn't sweat it too much. I'd look into the cognitive functions and see which one of those types suits you better from a cognitive function perspective, and then go with that. But at the end of the day, I don't tell people to worry too hard, like you have to be an INTJ because your life depends upon it. It doesn't. It's not that serious. Myers-Briggs is just barely better than horoscopes, in my opinion. So take it with a grain of salt. Take it as a test that gets the juices flowing and gets you looking at yourself, which is why I recommend the test. I don't recommend the test to say, oh, you tested as an ISTJ, you should be an accountant. Like, it doesn't work that way. Even though ISTJs may have a propensity to be good at that, it may not be your calling. So I wouldn't use it to make huge life decisions. Every day someone asks me, should I date an ISFJ? I have no idea. You might be insane, so it really doesn't matter what personality type you date. It's always going to suck because you're crazy. Right? So not you, but just in general terms, I would not sweat it too much. But there's more information that you can go read that may or may not help you. Let's see. Mimi says, I read some of that book, didn't finish though. Taj Marie says, however, and from my experience, if you veer towards teaching things more in an intuitive way, you can wind off antagonizing students who learn things in a sensing methodic. Possibly. You know, I think what history is going to prove is that we need a little bit of both. We need a little bit of structure and we need a little bit of intuition, right? You need a balance of both. And that's one of the problems I have with the Myers-Briggs is trying to pigeonhole people into one or the other. When I think, this is my theory, you're all of them. You're an extrovert and an introvert. And sometimes it's situational, but sometimes it really has to do with your state of mind in the moment. One of my favorite quotes about human beings is that no one is always anything. Now, arguably, people who facilitate the Myers-Briggs, because I have friends that have done it, I've had friends that have taken me through the paid test. They'll tell you that what it's really measuring is your default setting. Sure, in certain circumstances, like I hate when you go to the beach, do you have to have a schedule? Or do you like to just fly by the seat of your pants? Well, when I go to the beach, I fly by the seat of my pants. So that's going to give me a point in the P versus the J column, right? But what the test is designed to measure is your default. Well, I don't always have a default. For me, J and P, which was added after the fact, it's not even a part of Jung's original typology theory. It is totally situational for me. If I'm on SEAL Team 6 to go get Bin Laden, yeah, I'd probably like to know what our disposition is and the schedule. I'm going to the beach. I don't give two craps. I really don't. Like my wife says, what do you want to do today? I don't care. I could just lay here on the floor for another 6 hours. Lou says, I went to my first Tony Robbins seminar in 1986. He is amazing. Yes, he is. I mean, a lot of what I teach comes from things that I've learned from him, and then just put my own experience and twist on it. Let's see. Well, I am really behind on comments if you guys are talking about Tony Robbins. Somebody said, dang, I was 4. Let's see. How do you get over an obsession? I don't know. Depends on the obsession. If it's a good obsession, maybe you shouldn't get over it. Maybe you should apply it in a constructive way. But, you know, if you have an obsession that's bad for you, one of the best things you can do is replace it with something that's actually healthy for you. Let's see. I'm not quiet for the sake of being quiet. I'm reading through the comments here. Samantha Chong says, amen. Hello, Samantha. Tarika Woodard, or is it Tarika or Tarika? I'm assuming it's Tarika. Says she's nearing 40. Why do I feel like I'm invincible now? Well, because you've gotten to the age where you realize nobody's really paying that much attention to you, and so some of the insecurities start to melt away. And you've put in time learning and developing. So you've developed probably a good number of competencies that have led to you having more self-confidence. Dan says, I'm 45 and looking for my next career. I'm an ENTJ and totally lost about what I should be marching toward. So start with what you like, Dan. What do you like doing? Ask yourself, if you had to get out of the bed tomorrow and do the same thing every day for the rest of your life, what would that thing be? And Dan, if you haven't already, watch my 69 Pillars of Success video titled The 5 Pillars of Self-Awareness. I actually walk you through how to figure out your question. It's not something I can answer in like 30 seconds on a YouTube video. Like there's layers to what you need to be doing to figure that out, but I walk you through all the layers. And in my coaching program, I walk everybody through it individually to understand where they stand. Let's see. Little Fro says, I'm an ENFP dating an ENTJ, and honestly, we have to talk out my feelings to get to root cause. Blaming solves nothing. We always try to see the reason the emotional reaction is there. Little Fro says, that's impressive. I hate linear algebra. It's been a long time since I've done any linear algebra. So Ursula says, gotta go jump in loader and charge phone while I'm gone. Be back later. B, I will send you a message on Facebook later. And thank you. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. So, kerosene. Now, by the way, if I glanced over somebody's question and I missed it, I read through when you guys start talking to one another, and I kind of skim through that to get to more questions. If I miss one of your questions, don't sweat it. Just retype it. There's no spam here unless you write something ridiculous, like spoilers to a movie, which people love to do that for some reason. Kerosene Light says, good idea doing a live stream. Fellow ENTJ here. My question is, how do you deal with procrastination? You deal with procrastination by having desires that are strong enough to get your ass up and get busy. That's how you deal with it. And you deal with it by... So let me not give an overly simplified answer. That's the simple answer. The nuanced answer is sometimes procrastination is your brain trying to tell you you're doing the wrong thing. So you need to figure out which one it is. Is it your brain telling you, I really shouldn't be doing this? I should be finding something else to do that's going to add more value to my life and the lives of the people around me? Or is it that you just lack the intestinal fortitude to get busy? Because like if you want something really, really bad, especially as an ENTJ, you have no problems with procrastination. It doesn't exist. And that could go for any personality type, really. But if you're procrastinating, one of two things is at play. Either your goal and desire is not strong enough in your own heart, you're not fighting for something that you truly, deeply want, or you're doing the wrong thing and you need to adjust. Little Fro says, I agree the test is the default you go to, but you can always be using the less comfortable functions. I feel sometimes the less developed side shows when people are having a hard time. Yeah, and I believe you can develop functions. It's my theory. If the functions are even really a thing, I think they're explained pretty well in a way that makes sense to people. But, you know, science in 100 years will tell us that everything we thought was wrong and change everything like it always does. Well, not always, but Tyler Durden says, how old are you? Don't know. There's people that are 40. I was born during the Civil War, so you can do the math there. I was actually the first freed slave, believe it or not. Joking, of course. Joshua says, I'm an ENTP by default, but most of mine were close to the other side. Okay. Oh, it's actually Carrie asking here. Hi, Carrie. We've been calling you Dan. Hey there. All right, looks like I caught up to the questions. For once, I'm usually way behind. Carrie says, hi, what's up? What other questions does all of you have? Hello, just tuned into you from Australia. Great channel, thank you. Is it SCF? Am I reading that properly? Hello, SCF. Good to see you. All right, Facebook's hanging strong tonight too. What's up, Facebook friends? Y'all don't have any questions? Is what I'm sharing so death-defyingly amazing that you don't need to ask questions because I'm just that good? I refuse to believe that's the case. Carrie says, it's weird that an ENTJ female would be extremely artistic. No, it's not weird at all. You know, creativity, all of us are creative in our own way. So no, that doesn't, and that's where I say the Myers-Briggs, most of what you read, just to be clear, hey, Karen Ralph smiles. Most of what you guys read on these Myers-Briggs websites is stereotypes. Now, one could argue that if it's always true, then it's not a stereotype, sure, but it's not always true. And a lot of it is just based on, and a lot of what I talk about, by the way, is based on human observation. So I'm not saying anything that I'm giving you is better than the Myers-Briggs, except for when I'm giving you things that are either proven with science or from tests that are better designed to measure things. So a lot of it's stereotyping. ENTJs can be greatly artistic. We've got to get out of this mindset that our Myers-Briggs box is where we live and have to be, and this is who we have to be. It's just not accurate. You know, granted, as an ENTJ, you'll probably find very few of us that like inefficiency. And part of that, I think, honestly, has less to do with ENTJ and more to do with certain types of people use less of the glycogen. We are wired, maybe even genetically, to use the least amount of glycogen, that's the sugar that your brain burns to brain, we use less glycogen to get things done. So we're always looking for a solution that's what we call efficient. But what that really is about not using the resources of our brain more than we have to get the solution so we can conserve it. Right? And I think you'll find a correlation between that and being an ENTJ. Right? But one of those things is something that you can measure. The other thing is not. But that, I don't think it has anything to do with whether or not you can be artistic. I think you can be artistic all day long. Have you ever checked out Joe Rogan's podcast? Any opinions, Bryant? I would enjoy a life like that guy. He's just learning and enjoying himself, living healthy and being real. Letting his audience, looks like it cut you off there, come along for the ride. I see you as much more impactful, though, in the small amount of time watching your videos. Yeah, I like Joe's show. But the funny thing is, Joe's show is reliant on interviewing. So his show is really about the people. It's about him because he has some level of celebrity. And he's got, I think he's got a lot of good insight. But the, do I like his show? Yeah. The episodes, I haven't watched a ton of them. But what I've seen, I actually do like a great deal. And if you want a lifestyle like that, then let's go. Where's your podcast at? Don't sit here and talk to me about it. Get it done. Start a podcast and do it and keep doing it. Do at least a show every single week and be interesting. Tell stories from your life and things that you've experienced that other people would want to listen to. Right? And yes, like Gary Vaynerchuk says, no one's going to care for the first year, but you keep grinding and you keep working, and eventually you'll get 4 people to pay attention to you, and then it'll be 10, and then it'll be 100, then it'll be 1,000, 10,000. Right? It's just like, if you want that lifestyle, get busy. Don't be on the internet dreaming about it. Get busy creating it. Right? That's what you got to do. Tyler Durden says, what's the best book behind you? Best? I don't think there's a best necessarily. Or are you talking about the best out of the ones you can see? Here's what I believe. I believe in a concept called horses for courses. Have you guys ever heard that? That was something I heard Ty Lopez say, and I thought it was really, and it was one of his mentors. I think it was Alan Nation that taught him that. May Alan rest in peace. But it's, you got to choose the right horse for the right course. So if I want to be entertained and I want something lighthearted and I want to laugh, I just need to forget about my problems for a minute. Maybe I'm struggling with missing my dad or just sad. Probably not going to read this, okay? That isn't going to get it done. I'm probably going to go watch something funny on YouTube or Netflix. And usually for me it's watching, like sometimes I'll fall asleep to stand-up comedy because it puts me in a frame of mind where I'm laughing and I go to bed happy versus I go to bed stoic and hard. Like sometimes I want to relax, right? But when I'm going through a rough time and I need to remind myself to get ass up, work, and get successful, this book is going to be best for that, right? Or dealing with why I'm struggling with something. So I don't think there's any one best book. I think there are best books for the challenge that you're trying to solve. MBTI is about how you think, not how you behave. It's an important distinction to make. MBT shows you the thinking behind your behaviors. That's an interesting take. I think the only challenge with that is a lot of the questions it asks when it's measuring that are behavioral questions, especially in the extrovert-introvert scale. It's about what are you doing, and then they're trying to measure, oh, clearly you're an extrovert because you like to go hang out at happy hour. I'm a max extrovert, and the last place I'm trying to be is freaking happy hour. I can tell you that much. Carrie yells, I can't stand inefficiency. Of course you can't. Little Fro says, well, I'm an ENFP software engineer. Go figure. Of course. Yeah, I think we've got to get out of the mindset that because of our personality type, we have to be this thing that, the Human Metrics website said, oh, like Human Metrics says that I'd be a great lawyer. I would rather wrestle a great white shark than be a lawyer. I just know I would. I wouldn't enjoy that job. Now, would I be good at it? Probably. But I wouldn't enjoy it. It's not what I would want to do. Right? Let's see. Dino says, extreme ownership and verbal judo have been recent changing books for myself. Highly recommend. Yep. Extreme ownership's right there for Facebook. It's right here for those of you watching on YouTube. It's a great book. Jocko Willink. Jocko also has a great podcast, Dino. I don't know if you listen to it, but I actually stole the tone of Jocko's intro for my podcast. So hopefully if he ever hears it, he's not like, man, this dude stole me. Like, no, I'm just emulating what I like, Jocko. Let's see. Let's see. Do I have any thoughts on ENTJ and low latent inhibition? Break down low latent inhibition for me, and I'll tell you what my thoughts are. Anna says, yes. Uh-oh. Somebody said something that got Anna fired up. KDX says, is gratitude something that comes with age? I find some kids today just expect everyone to give them things. No. The reason why your kids expect that is because you trained them to be that way. Period. If kids are entitled, it's because, I'll tell you an exercise I did with my son, and I did it kind of in humor, but I also taught him. We were at the video game store because I like to take my kids out to hang out. It's a favorite pastime of mine. And so my second oldest says, hey, Dad, what are you getting me for Christmas? And I looked at him, and I was like, what? He's like, what are you going to get me for Christmas? I said, nothing. I'm not getting you anything for Christmas. And he looks at me like, are you joking? No, I was joking, but I said, no, I'm not joking. And he's like, well, why would you do that? I said, what did you get me for Christmas last year? I said, let me help you. The answer is nothing. What have you ever bought me for Christmas? You've been on Earth for 8 years. What have you ever bought me for Christmas? Nothing. So why on God's earth, if you've never done anything for me, do you think I'm just going to jump out of my way to go do something for you? Is that the way you think the world works? Now, at this point, he's getting depressed because he thinks I'm being serious, right? But I'm trying to help him understand a point that, yes, children are by nature narcissistic. They have to learn and develop, brain. They have to develop connections in their brain where empathy and all these other things come from. But because they're raised with a boob in their mouth, for God's sake. Like, they're raised with you doing everything for them. So entitlement is not something you just grow out of. It's something that you have to be trained to be grateful and to give back, right? And that's the thing I don't understand about the world is people are just expecting people to figure things out. One of my pastors at an old church, God love him, used to say a really powerful quote, you live at the level you're taught. So I was teaching my son about gratitude and about how Christmas is about giving, not about what you're going to get. And I said, you've never bought me anything for Christmas. Why on God's earth would I want to buy something for you? I said, you think it's the way the world works? People just give you stuff because you're awesome? He's like, no, I guess not. I guess you're right. I never have bought you anything. I said, right. And Christmas is about giving. It's not about what Dad's going to get for you. You get excited about Christmas because you're going to come downstairs and open up all these gifts. Why don't you get excited about helping someone? You remember the last time we as a family went to feed the homeless? That's what you should be excited about. You should be excited about the fact that your life is so amazing that we have enough food to take some to somebody else. And I just left it there. But he didn't walk away sad. He walked away with, yeah, that makes sense. In this world, if I want things, I've got to put other people first. Cool. Thanks, Dad. Right? We look at kids. Why are you so entitled? 'Cause, Mom, you've been buying me everything I ever asked for the last 15 years. What did you expect? Like, our kids live at the level we teach them, period. If you've got someone that's struggling with entitlement, it's training. So gratitude comes from, first of all, gratitude is a choice. But when you're young and you don't have an idea of what the concept is, you have to be taught. So I teach my sons about being thankful, right? And one of the ways I teach them about being thankful is going and feeding homeless people. And when my son figured out, oh, wait, Dad, when does he get to go home? He doesn't. He lives out here. He lives with that trash bag and that shopping cart on that bench. And my son's like, but Dad, it's so cold outside. I said, exactly, and you sleep in heat. So they have to have perspective, and you have to give it to them. That is a responsibility of a parent. Kimberly says, hi, Bryant. I love your live streams. I will be back. I have to get up early, and I still have to take my bath. So good night, everyone. Good night, Kimberly. Thanks for coming. Siren of the Voice said, you never heard that, Bryant? I'm surprised. I hear too many people take the system the wrong way. Take what system the wrong way? What did I miss? Lawyers have tons of paperwork. Mundane task central. Ursula says, I do art and write books and absolutely love it. My job is just a stepping stone to my dream. I tell my boss about behavior. When he bitches, you get what you tolerate. Yeah, that's true. He gets irritated, but true. Joshua says, thank you, Bryant. Respect and appreciate the realness so much. Time to make it happen. When is the last time you've been in NYC? Born and raised here. I love giving back and need to do it a lot more. Last time I was in NYC, 2000, it was before my third kid was born, so that's, or was he in the stroller? Let's see. So NYC would have been 2012 or 13 was the last time I was there. And Dino says, I do. Excellent. Natalie Rader says, love this topic. Gratitude is my favorite word. Love, love, love. Way to go. Good job. Sup, BC. Sup, Natalie. Good to see you. SCF says, those with low latent inhibition are highly sensitive to their surroundings and its stimuli. Normal people, if there's ever such thing as normal people, are able to shut out this consistent stream of incoming stimuli. So let's map that back to the original question, which was, do I have thoughts for ENTJ and low latent? So is that similar to HSP as well, like the highly sensitive person? I don't know that your Myers-Briggs type is going to affect that any differently than it would for someone else. To be honest with you, I don't have any thoughts specifically on how being an ENTJ works with that. It is believed that ENTJs use the least amount of glycogen when they're processing information, so maybe you can rely on that if it's even true. But yeah, I don't have any specific thoughts. Like, do you have a specific question you'd like to ask me? Maybe I can answer something specific. It's a very general question that I don't have any general thoughts about ENTJ versus that that come to mind. But if you have a specific question, I may be able to help you out. Siren of the Voice says, I speak of MBTI. Yeah, I know. I just wasn't sure what are you tying that back to the way we think versus the way we behave? I've heard a lot of things about MBTI. Most of it very stereotypical. Shane Tallulah says, Tahuya says, when I take my kids shopping, we put food in the food bank at the market. Sweet. Cody Knapp, if it takes away from your spotlight of the video, please don't feel obligated to answer. Cody, I did not see a question from you, my friend. If this takes away from your spotlight, I don't have any spotlight, brother. If you got a question, ask it. And if you posted a question and I missed it, just repost it. Ursula says, you say you feel old sometimes. I'm 55. I think you're as old as you feel. Joshua says, this is gold. Everyone here should really tell at least one friend or family member to check out BryantChambers. That's all right, man. Thank you. I'm doing so as we speak. Let's change lives one at a time. Connect, inspire, teach, and grow. Sweet. Kadiak says, how do I deal with 20-somethings in the workplace that look and act like their poop don't stink and don't listen during training? The same way you deal with anybody that behaves like that. You know, respectfully challenge them. You know, respect what you do with people like that is you have to mentor them. Like, they probably don't have someone that's been in there to help them understand that their poop does stink. And so you have an opportunity not to be like an authority figure that's bitter and resentful of them. You have an opportunity to encourage them and to empower them by giving them information and helping them not just to see their flaws, but to see the potential they could be reaching if they didn't behave the way that they did. Flip it. One of the most powerful quotes my first mentor outside of my house had on his refrigerator. This guy named Eric. He was my first, really my first spiritual father, my first spiritual mentor. Had a picture on his refrigerator with a guy that had on a leather coat, actually a leather vest, which would totally not look cool in 2017. But he had all these tattoos and sunglasses and greasy hair. And the quote says, "Our job in life is not to see through people. It's to see people through." Okay? That's your job. Especially if you're training people. Your job is to figure out how to get the most out of the people that are there. And that means you have to have empathy for them. You need to understand where they're coming from and show a genuine desire to get to know them and to come into their bubble instead of trying to force them into yours. Melanie, what's up, girl? Joshua, yes, I do that. There's so much value here. Thanks, Mel. It's good to see you. Carrie says, agree, Joshua. Cody Knapp says, but I realized, oh, wait, I feel like I'm missing Cody's stuff. He says, but I've realized that I am an INFJ recently. I know because it's to a T. But if you have any more advice on finding a job suitable for me, or more importantly, knowing what career to lead towards, I like hands-on work but struggle with knowing whether or not I could be a better or more enjoyable career path with going through the strong struggle of schooling. So let me ask a question. Let me answer that with a question. By a show of, I don't know, put an emoji, pick an emoji. By a show of hands, how many of you have been watching my 69 Pillars of Success program? It's totally free. It's the first thing on my page. How many of you have been watching it? And you've seen the second video in the series called The 5 Pillars of Self-Awareness. Dino says, as an ENTJ, I've worked hard to not come off as callous or too blunt that I hurt someone. Honestly, I get a little upset when I tell someone I'm an ENTJ and their response is, oh, so you're a jerk. Yeah, I've been there, brother. You were earlier. Okay, so the comment cut off, Dino. It looks like you wrote some more, but Facebook cut the rest of it off, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I totally understand. We have a knack. My wife very politely calls it being, she's like, you're very matter of fact when you speak. And that's code for you just get right to the point. Like no foreplay, you go straight for the win. And it's just how we are. We don't like to waste time. So it's like, hey man, your breath stinks. Brush your teeth. Like I've done that to my kids and my wife's gotten upset. Like my son will come tell me like, hey Slim, did you brush your teeth this morning? Like, for real, don't ever get that close to my face without some Crest or some Colgate having touched your tongue. And my wife would be like, that was so mean. I'm like, it's not mean. The boy smells like he's been eating diapers. Like, I'm helping him because if he goes in the real world and does it, how do you think they're going to react? Like, he smells like he's been chewing on bad diapers. I'm doing him a favor. And she's like, well, that's so cold. I'm like, it's not cold. The boy smells like diaper mouth. And I'm trying to tell him, don't ever do that again. You know, and so it's so mean. Like, it's not mean. I'm trying to help this dude with his stank breath. KDX says, great answer. I'll start with empathy and go from there. And you will win. Mark my words. Little Fro, I have a few INFJ friends. Cody. All right, cool. He's letting them know. Raven says she's seen it. KDX has seen it. Ursula's seen it. Ray has seen it. What's up, Ray? Taj Marie, not all of them. So the reason why I asked that is, Cody, if you're new here, make sure you're on my front. First of all, make sure you subscribed and you hit the little bell thing that tells you when I post videos on YouTube. And like my Facebook page so that you can send me questions and talk with me. That's the best way to talk to me. Some people will write me like a book on YouTube and I'm like, oh, I guess I have to answer this right now because if I don't, YouTube's going to bury it. So sending it on Facebook allows me to organize it, makes it easier. Or shoot me an email. Watch my 5 Pillars of Self-Awareness video after you watch my Mindset video in the 69 Pillars. It's the first 2 videos you'll see. In fact, if you just go to my page and you're not subscribed, the video that I'm talking about will start playing. It's the first video that pops up. That will help you start to figure out where you need to go next. It's a question that I can't really answer in chat because I don't know enough about you. I don't know, and that's why in my coaching program, I go through, like people send me their results and we go through them together. Because the more I can know about you, the more I can answer that question in a valuable way. But doing so, Just giving you a generic answer here is not really going to help you. So watch that video, and then if you still have questions, hit me up. Dino says, I was saying that your comments that we need to own our feelings means I have more work to do. That maybe every ENTJ that person met was a jerk. Yeah, 100%. And jerk is relative to the person. Like, a jerk to me, like, you want to know what bothers me? And, well, it doesn't bother me. Sometimes it does. Is people who are really jipper in the morning. Like, good morning, how are their voice goes up 9 octaves. Like, oh, man, just, like, I would have rather you just walked up and slapped me in the face. Because your whole phony good morning, how are you? Like, I want to kick you out of a window. Versus me in the morning, like, that person is deemed nice. They're annoying to me, but they're nice. Like me, I'm like, hey, what's up, morning. They're like, oh, that was harsh. Tomato, tomato. One person's harsh is another person's real. One person's nice is another person's annoying. Now, if you're that person, then good morning. Like, I'm not actually annoyed with you. It's just like, can you tone down the octaves a little bit? Like, no one is, and because no one's that excited to see me. Come on. No one is like, oh, it's him. Like, it's like, hey, man. Like, hey, good morning, brother. That's all I need. I don't need the, hey, like, oh, Jesus, do a push-up. Why are you here? All right, so I say that to say everybody's different. I wouldn't sweat it. All right. Cody says, that's what I was thinking myself. I do appreciate the insight, Fro. Okay. Melody says, haha, my life. Chipper people in the morning bother me so much. Yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm respectful. Like, I'm like, if they do it to me, I'm not like, I hate you. It's just like, come on, man. You're not that excited to see me. Why are you talking to me like this? And I don't really wake up till noon anyway. I'm not a morning person. I am totally a night person. 100%. Always have been. Struggled with insomnia as a kid, and it's been that way. Samuel Hunter says, good morning. How are you? Ursula says, shut up unless you have my coffee in your hand. Siren of the Voice says, ENTJs and emotions. You know what's funny is ENTJs are just as emotional as anyone else. It's just what we get emotional about is different than everyone else. Like, you want to get an ENTJ emotional, I'll give you a trick. Insult their intelligence. My mother does it to me all the time. All the time. My mother can push my buttons like nobody else because she'll say something that's completely... She says stuff to me like I'm 8. Like, Ma, I've been on Earth like decades. I got that. And then she'll get mad. Well, why are you being that way? I'm just trying to help. Like, you're not being helpful by talking to me like I'm 7 years old. Well, that's not how I meant it. Like, oh, like insult. And my mother insults my intelligence all the time. Now, here's the flip side. She's not intentionally insulting my intelligence. She's actually trying to be helpful. So I have to be empathetic to, this is just the way. Like, I remember one time I was 16. Was I 15? One of them. And we had this huge blizzard that dropped a foot of snow the first day. A foot. Now, you people from New York are like, well, that's nothing. That's fine. I'm not from New York. And so, dropped a foot of snow the first day, right? Then, the next day, it dropped another foot of snow. The first foot starts melting a little bit. It drops another foot day 2. The first foot turns to ice. So, we were out of school for like 2 weeks straight. We didn't go to school. I was going out to shovel some driveways to make some loot, right? And I was going to shovel some driveways because the neighbors asked me and they couldn't do it themselves. I had some older neighbors. My mother says this, okay, Brian, don't forget your shoes and socks. And I was like, Ma, I'm going to shovel snow. Do you really believe I'm going outside in my bare feet? Like, this is like pioneer times or dinosaur times? Is dinosaur times a time? Someone look that up. I'm going to go outside in my bare feet in the snow like it's the Ice Age. Like, on what planet do you think I'm going outside without my shoes and my socks? By the way, don't forget, like, if you get the shoes, but don't forget the socks. So I'm going outside barefoot with my shoes on so I get frostbite? That's what I'm doing, Ma? That's my mother. And I was 15 then. She still does this stuff to me today. We got in an argument on my birthday. Well, just remember, like, Ma, I got it. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I'm not 7. Why do you talk? And she couldn't understand why I was upset. Because in her mind, she wasn't being insulting. She was just trying to help. And it's on me to say, well, she's just trying to help. Let me just shut up and listen to what she's saying and not take offense to her always insulting my intelligence and talking to me like I'm 3. You know, so that's the thing we have to think about, is everybody's perspective is different. But yeah, ENTJs are no less emotional than everyone else. We just don't get emotional about the stuff, at least in my observation. We don't get emotional about the stuff that everyone else does. Like, Donald Trump is going to burn the country down. Like, okay, well then we'll just rebuild it. No sense in, like, net neutrality has everybody, oh my God, they're going to turn the internet off. All right, well, we'll just go back to sending letters and we'll figure it out. Cool. Right? But you insult our intelligence, we'll be ready to fight. Okay. He said Flintstone style. Oh, man. Raven said, did you see the message from me? Yeah, I did. And no, the answer is yes, we have the BryantChambers Movement Facebook page. I just haven't done anything to it yet. Like, it's blank. So the answer is yes, we do have a group. But for now, they can just follow my page because my page is set up to where they can leave comments on the page. So if they go to BryantChambers page on Facebook, they can leave comments there just like it's a group. And I can respond to them. Or they can send me a message directly. Eventually, I'll get the BryantChambers group set up. And I haven't really launched that because I want to focus on building the page first. And then we'll funnel everybody over there once we get to a certain number. Yeah, Carrie said it very well. I get emotional about things that are illogical. Well said. That's... You want to get us emotional? Do some illogical shiza, and we'll be right there. Siren says, I wasn't commenting on emotionality being exclusive to feeling types. Rather, I'm saying that NTs don't prefer to be empathetic by nature. That's not how they think. I don't think that's necessarily true. In fact, I think we can be insanely empathetic, just not in the way that, like the way we, like for example, what I did with my son at the game store was insanely empathetic from my perspective. But the way other people perceive empathy, that may have been harsh or cold. You feel what I'm saying? So it's not that we don't have the same buttons and emotions and feelings as everyone else. We totally do. And we totally, even though we can tend to seem sociopathic, which is not altogether false, we don't necessarily have empathy for certain things, but the things we do have, we have strong empathy for the things that we do have empathy for. At least, let me not speak for all. That's me. I can't speak for all personality types, but that's definitely me. You know, I care very deeply for how what I do affects people. But I also care more about the outcomes than I do their feelings in the moment. So maybe that's what you meant by that. And if that's what you meant, then we're on the same page. KDX says, my mother's the same way. I'm a grown man, but I think it's hard for moms to turn that motherly ways off. Yeah, it's hard for them to turn it off. It's another thing to tell your son to not forget his shoes and socks before he walks out to a foot of ice. Like that's like, people are like, well, where do we draw the line? That's the line. The line is mom telling you not to forget your socks when you go to walk on ice. Like, you have to have your feet amputated. Like, clearly I'm still bitter about this. 20 years later, I'm still mad. Mom did this to me. You did this to me, Mom. Carrie says, you need a comedy channel. This is the comedy channel. The live shows is where the comedy comes out, yo. I would do a lot more comedy on the videos too, but sometimes I don't have a lot of time to film, so I have to get to the point and move on. But I've been trying to add some more. Like, if you saw my 25 cognitive biases, I think the video was titled American Politicians Legalize, what do they legalize corruption. It's a cognitive biases video. That actually starts off with a skit. that my son loves. He was trying to emulate it, probably because he was in the skit. Joshua says, so I'm seeing you and I definitely have some similarities in our personalities. What do you think is the biggest difference between ENTJs and ENTPs? Well, what I would do is just have you look at the cognitive functions and see what applies. It's hard for me to say blanket, this is the big difference between ENTJs and ENTPs. I mean, the stereotype is that ENTPs like to argue a lot more. But that's a stereotype. I mean, in some groups, the ENTP is called the debater, for God's sake. And I've noticed that with ENTPs that I know that they are more inclined, like, we will debate if we think something's being stepped on that's not accurate, but we don't necessarily enjoy it. The ENTPs are stereotypically believed to enjoy it. That's one thing. But I would look at the cognitive functions and see what applies to you. I don't know that I have a big blanket statement for what the big differences are. Dino says, I care a lot about people I try to help. We're definitely not mean robots with a default blunt setting. That's true. There's an awesome episode of Star Trek The Next Generation about empathy. And it's the episode, if you're a Star Trek fan, you'll totally remember this. If you're not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to tell the story. The episode when Wesley Crusher goes to Starfleet Academy to become a cadet, right? To become a Starfleet officer. And they put him through what's called the psych test. And part of his psych test is he bumps into this other alien creature. And the alien creature gets violent with him. And he's trying to apologize. Like, look, man, I didn't mean to bump into you. Like, I'm sorry. And the guy gets more and more belligerent with Wesley. Right? And Wesley quickly kind of sizes up situations and looks at the guy's hands and notices that he has webbed fingers. When he notices that, Wesley immediately gets violent with him. He's like, get out of my face. Do you want this to get ugly? And the guy goes, I like you. We'll be good friends. And he walks away. And so Wesley's buddy's like, how did you diffuse the situation by getting violent with him, and why did he like it? He's like, well, when I looked at the guy, I noticed he had web hands. That's those web hands are characteristic of, I can't remember the name of the race. That race hates pleasantries. They feel like when you try to be overly nice to them, you're being superficial and dishonest. And when you're direct with them, they appreciate it. That's something that I've always attributed to my personality type. That's why I don't like the, hi, good morning, how are you? Because nobody's that excited to see me in the morning. Literally nobody. Not even my mother likes me that much. And so it just seems inauthentic. Like you're being overly nice because you're trying to convey niceness. And I don't know, maybe you are that nice lady or person. To me, it just seems superficial and phony, and I don't like superficial and phony things. So that's I've always said that's probably the race I would have been if I was in Star Trek, right? So it comes down to, you know, when you're looking at personalities and understanding how people work with empathy, you know, having a default blunt setting, it's more just we like directness because directness is honest and authentic. Wow, Raven's telling a very interesting story right now. And for those of you who are on Facebook, if you haven't picked up on the fact that if you're just tuning in, I'm running a Facebook stream and a YouTube stream, so most of what I'm interacting with is on YouTube because that's where people comment more. So if you're like, who's Raven? Is that someone in the room with him? No. Raven is our community manager here at the BryantChambers movement. Boom. And she's telling a very interesting story about her 6-year-old. Which every story about a 6-year-old is interesting because they're terrorists. Children are part of terrorist organizations designed to destroy your house and make you be stressed. Melanie says, I hope people don't take me the wrong way because I'm always overly excited to see people, but I'm actually genuinely excited. So if you're, I think when people are genuinely excited, like I've seen someone genuinely be like, "Oh, yo, it's you," right? That's cool. For example, I worked at President Obama's first inaugural ceremony, right? So I was the director of operations and the deputy general manager. When I talk about Fortune 500, this is actually the job I was doing for Union Station here in Washington, D.C., and that's where a lot of things go down for the inaugural day. And I went to our subway. We call it the Metro. New Yorkers call it the subway. Went to the Metro, and I was standing on the platform getting ready to catch the train, because you do not drive into D.C. on that day, especially not the first day a black president is in office, because everyone, like the whole world, I saw famous people just walking in the middle of the streets because it was such a monumental occasion. And I remember getting on the platform, and it's very dark, and I see this kind of shadowy figure in a military uniform. And I'm looking, I'm like, he looks familiar. And I was like, is that my first sergeant from when I was in command in the Army? And if you don't understand the ranks, like my first sergeant is basically my number 2 guy. And he's standing on the platform, and I go, "Yo, Terry." And he turns, and he sees me. And then he's like, "Oh, snap." 2 grown men, one in a suit, one in a military uniform, embracing each other like they're long-lost brothers that were separated by slavery. Like, "Oh, man, what's happening? So good to see you." Like, and people are looking at us thinking, why are these 2 big-ass dudes hugging on each other like this? This is awkward. So I was clearly very excited to see. I mean, I went to war with this dude, right? So someone I'm very close to, someone I hadn't seen. And he had been living down the street from me for like a year and a half. Had no idea. Small world. And the last time we had seen each other was in Georgia when we lived there. So, you know, yes, I can be excited to see someone too. In the morning, when you see me every day, probably not so much. But if it is authentic, Melanie, rock on. I support it. Anna says, "I so remember that episode. TNG are here." Yes. Couldn't stand Wesley's wet blanket stare, but yes. Yeah, so TNG is, I think, the best television show that's ever existed in the history of mankind. I don't think anything will ever beat it. The Star Trek show that's on right now makes me want to vomit. It has the potential to be so good, but it's trying so hard to be gangster instead of being freaking Star Trek. Sorry. Soapbox. Put it back under my desk. Taj Marie says, "I had identified most with Worf in Star Trek." Yeah, I relate to him a lot too. I also relate a lot to Will Riker. A lot like that dude. Like very jovial in the way that I command. That's your boy. But Will Riker could fight too. Don't let him fool you. He was a lot more romantic and emotional than me though. I didn't have that side. Nigel says, "Hey B, in reference to the book, The One Thing, do you think someone can have more than one thing at a time? I have lots of goals, big and small, that I want to work on." That's kind of too general of a question. You'd have to give me more specifics. But, you know, Confucius said, "The man who chases 2 rabbits catches none." It's like, but if you look at my business, it would appear that I'm chasing 2 rabbits. I'm very much not. I have a holding company that has different parts. Right? So I have my holding company, and then that has my marketing agency, which has client services and coaching products like the Social Media Ninja Academy you hear me talk about. Then you have the BryantChambers movement, which is a part of the company where I do a lot of the stuff you see with my personal brand and here on YouTube. But then I also provide coaching there too. But the focus of the whole holding company is basically a media company that I'm using to disrupt business and education. It's one focus that just has multiple, like think of it as one military unit that has different pieces that focus on different parts of the same mission. So that you definitely can have. What you can't have is you're trying to be a professional football player while also trying to be the world's #1 chef, because those 2 things don't work together, right? Like, I mean, I guess technically you could do it. But, you know, that's probably a bad example. You know what I mean? But so I need more specifics about Like, my one thing is leave the world better than I found it. Period. There's no other thing. That's it. Now, I do a lot of different things to make that happen, but my one thing is very solid. KDX, what do you call being blunt? I call keeping it real. But sometimes I do get tired of keeping it real and would rather someone lie to me. It's different from person to person. Yeah. Dino says, I like Firefly too. I need to get into Firefly. I've only ever seen like the first episode, and that episode's kind of boring. But I've heard it's amazing. I need to give it another shot. I need to do that. Let's see. Anna says, okay. Cat Williams offers a wonderful take on logicking. Cat Williams is hilarious. Siren of the Voice says, that's a sweet moment, hugging your war buddy like that. Yeah, it's my brother, man. Melanie says, LOL, excited in the morning? Never. But yeah, seeing someone you haven't seen in a while. Yeah, so that's different. I've seen people get genuinely like, oh my God, it's you. Awesome. Ursula. She says, she is not having the new Star Trek. I mean, the new Star Trek is annoying. Like, it could be so good, but they're so busy trying to make it gritty and real. Like, it has Rainn Wilson, for God's sake. It should be amazing. But, nope. They're trying to keep it too, and like, there's cussing in it now. And I'm not offended by cussing, but that's like having a breakdancing montage in the middle of Star Wars. Like, it just doesn't fit. It's not... Get off my soapbox. Just keep my soapbox under my desk. Ursula says, I think we're all here to uplift each other and bring up the level of awareness for those willing to listen by setting the example and sharing all resources we can. Cool. I'm very proud of both my YouTube audience and my Facebook audience. Y'all have been hanging in there tough tonight. Peter says, your soapbox is my favorite. I know, man. Try to keep my soapbox under my desk, but it keeps coming out. I think I need to build a prop and like label it soapbox so I can pull it out on the show for humor's sake. I think I'm going to do that. Get one of my kids to build it. One of my creative children. I'm not good with that kind of stuff. Let me see something real quick. Okay, managing oneself is here. People are always asking me about my books. I'm trying to think. Ooh, I need this book because I'm going to be doing a video series on that. Let's pull that out. Yes, sirree. Arnold already did that video. Arnold is actually one of the bonus videos in our 69 Pillars program. Look forward to you guys getting to see that. What else? Ask Gary V. I got 2 copies of Think and Grow Rich, both of which I think I got for like $1. Actually, I think I had 3 copies of it and I gave one away. It's not my favorite book in the world, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like it. But this book right here is the truth. That one needs to be front and center. There we go. Let's see. Let's see whether... Anna says, you were worth your time. Worth our time. Thank you. Thank you. Natalie says, dude, it's your clapper. That makes your soapboxes. I love having props, man. Ursula says, or get a soapbox hat to throw on in those moments. That would actually be dope. Let's see if I can get that made. KDX says, do you think you will go back to making how to be successful on YouTube type videos? Or is that in the past? I've actually made 2 of them this month. I made one about the adpocalypse, and then I did a live stream there. Was it last night? I think, yeah, last night. Didn't I broadcast on both of my channels? So yeah, I still make stuff every once in a while. Most of what I focus on the YouTube space is what I do in my academy. And I know that's a paid program, but like the undergrad program is $1, for God's sake. Like, it was like, how cheap can I make this just to see if price is the issue? And so there's a ton of good stuff there. I kind of moved away from doing successful on YouTube stuff for a very simple reason, and it's called cognitive biases. And people really, especially in the YouTube space, really are dominated by what's called social proof. And when they come to a channel and there's a guy talking about being successful and he only has 15,000 followers, or I have over 20 if you can count both of the channels. Now, you only have 20-some thousand followers, then most people don't deem that successful because you don't have millions of followers, right? And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull a Gary Vaynerchuk and say, I'm going to shut my mouth about being successful on YouTube. And I'm just going to prove to all these people that I can build a very large YouTube channel. And then maybe one day I'll go back to talking about being successful and shut everybody up. And it wasn't like an insecure, oh, they hurt my feelings because they don't think I'm successful. It really came down to I didn't have the social proof to get the attention that other channels do. And by the way, I don't like talking about YouTube tips and tricks enough to make that my primary source of content. And when I experimented with other stuff, like I talked about Instagram and things I was learning in that space, I've learned a lot on Facebook, being able to grow my Facebook page organically relatively quickly for how hard it is to get people to pay attention. Like right now, I have a post on Facebook that's over 500,000 views, right? And I have 2 more that are going to follow that suit. And I have videos that have tens of thousands of views, etc., etc., etc. So, you know, I talk about a lot of those things, but YouTube just really didn't. The reaction from the audience that I had was, dude, just please keep making monetization videos. And I didn't want that. And I didn't want to keep doing live streams about success on YouTube when I just don't think people were getting out of it what could be gotten out of it, because they'd look at my subscribers and be like, well, I'm just not going to watch this. So I decided, fair. I've heard you. You want me to be a bigger channel before I talk about this again? I'll go be a bigger channel. Now, I may become a bigger channel and still not go back to doing YouTube stuff specifically, just because I don't know how interested I am in that setting so much. And I'm not interested in making I'm not interested in doing the Tim Schmoyer model. And I'm not against Tim's model, by the way. I think what he does is very good. It's very useful. He's helped me in a lot of ways. But I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to say, hey, did you hear that, you know, YouTube, this is something that happened to me. This is a video I could make, but it's also something people can Google. They don't need to hear it from me. Did you hear that if you don't monetize your channel, YouTube will take some of your abilities away? So, for example, in my cards, I can't post links to my website anymore. Why? Because I don't monetize my channel. You're welcome. So that's something I can make a video like, did you know about this? But that's something you could Google, and it's something that, to me, it's not really all that interesting to talk about. So, and honestly, my success videos were really rooted in the stuff that I talk about here. Most of what I talk about here is the same principles. It just doesn't have the YouTube spin on it. So if you take what I'm talking about here and apply it to your YouTube channel, you'll still be successful. But people couldn't accept that I was talking about YouTube, but I wasn't as big as Daryl or Tim. And not that people, but when I say people couldn't accept, I'm not talking about people leaving me crappy comments. I'm talking about people watching videos, right? And to add that to an already hefty production schedule where now I have to make videos and upload them, I'd rather just live stream. So I live stream usually about once a month there. Samuel Hunter says, Brian, how is MentorBox? I was thinking about subscribing. I shot a video called Is MentorBox Worth $97 a month? And I think it's gone up. I think it's more than that now. It really depends. Like, if you are a person who struggles to read and you need somebody to give you the cliff notes and let you watch videos to kind of digest the book without having to read it, I think MentorBox could really be good. If you're like me and you read 3 books a week at least, I didn't really need it. I kept it for a little while. I was like, I can deploy this money towards Facebook ads or something else that'll help clients that I have, versus $100 a month to get, I don't know what books they're going to send me, first of all. And they sent me mostly really good books. They sent me a couple that I was like, I could have done without that book. I didn't like the book. What was the book? Presence. I don't really like that book very much. But, you know, I like to pick out my books myself. So I didn't really need it. But if you're a person who struggles to read, but you want to do more reading and you know you need to, MentorBox can be very, very good for you. Right? So I'm not for it or against it. I think it really just depends on what you want out of the deal. Anna says, your kids are fortunate to have a parent who is so aware of how to navigate their development while teaching them how to manage their future. Thank you. That's very nice. Ray says, that's Sam. He's got in-depth video on the whole mentor box. Oh, someone already caught it. Natalie, hat, clapper, grabber, soapbox, check. Boom, we're set. Not to change the subject too much, but how much into investing in the stock market are you into? I started 6 months ago, have about 17% gains so far. It's been fun learning journey. I've been in and out of the stock market since the year 2000. Lost a ton of money in 2008 because I had no idea how the markets work. So I have a working knowledge of how the markets work. I studied day trading for a while. I actually went to a seminar where they taught me how to day trade and the tools that are used for it. And the seminar was amazing because it taught me I never need to be a day trader. Nope. No, sir. No, well, it wasn't day trading. I'm sorry. It was wisely trading stocks, basically. Being a stock trader, not a day trader. And it just taught me, nope, this is not for me. So I really appreciated spending $100 to learn that I didn't need to invest thousands, right? So I like it. I like the idea. But for me, right now I'm working to build some things, so I'm not heavy into the stock market. I'm heavy in cash, working to build and invest in my business so that I can do bigger and better things. Melanie says, I hate how some people judge so harshly based on someone's number of subscribers or views. Yeah, and so what it really is they judge you because they're insecure. Like, I wrote an article last week about game developers on a game developers subreddit saying, hey, here's some mistakes that I see game developers making when it comes to marketing. And I walked through some very basic, here are things that you could be doing to improve it. Now, a lot of people at Reddit took what I said to mean, stop making game trailers and just make developer diaries. I was like, I never said don't do a trailer. I said the problem is too many of you small companies focus all your money and attention on a trailer and then you drop it and then nobody cares. And then you have no other money or time left to engage with your audience. I said you need, unfortunately, I'm not against trailers. If you have the bandwidth, yes, you need to have a good trailer. But you also need to engage with your audience because you don't have the distribution that Sony or these bigger companies have. And literally someone came on that, this is horrible advice. First of all, you didn't read what I said. And then he's like, I think you were just trying to get people to hire you by posting this comment. So I answered the person politely. I didn't say what first came to my mind, which was, well, okay, if this is such horrible advice, where's your post? Because I wrote a long, this was very heavy stuff that I was dropping, right? And then engaging in the comments to help people flesh it out. My first reaction is, if this is so bad, where's your post at? Where's your 2-page post about how people could do better marketing? If this is so bad, don't just call it out for being bad, because that's cowardly. Fix it. Tell us what the right thing to do is. Because if I'm wrong, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to learn from you. But you don't have anything because you're insecure. What really that person was saying was, I don't like the fact that this dude is getting shine on something that I kind of disagree with. So what you find out is when people are judging you, they're really being judgmental about themselves because they're insecure. And they're projecting their insecurities onto you. Not a single person commented about my subscribers that has tons. I have people that follow me that have millions of subscribers. So let's be clear for all the people in the interwebs. I have people who follow me who have millions of followers. By the way, I have people who have over 1 million followers who contribute money to what I do because of the value that I've given them. It's never them that have anything crappy to say. It's always Johnny Depression in his basement with 4 subscribers. It's never anybody that's successful that's hating on you. So I don't put any weight on a hater. I stopped because of the haters. I stopped because I wasn't getting traction, right? When you look at what I do in the YouTube space, I want to amass a following of people that I can help, and I want to be able to put people into my program, not just to make money. That's part of it. Of course I want to make money. That'd be stupid if I didn't want to. But so that I can help more people with more specific advice. And it just wasn't happening. I wasn't able to really connect with the audience in the way that I wanted to. So I was like, okay, I'll play the game. I will shut my mouth and I'll just go build something that's really good. Right? And the coaching that I'll do for now, I'll continue doing coaching for the people that have trusted me, and I'll give them an insane amount of value. Like, for example, we had a guy that came into my program, came into our Social Media Ninja Academy. This is no BS. He showed up with 400 subscribers. That was last November. By April, I think he had 50,000 followers, 50,000 subscribers. So in the course of a couple of months, this dude was growing by 10,000 subscribers a month off of the things we showed him and did a channel review for him. So the formula works, but, you know, when people look at my number, they're just not convinced. So I'm like, okay, cool. I will continue giving insane value to people who do get it. And they're like, I'm not worried about this guy's subscribers. He reaches a very small niche of people, and he's focused on content that's not entertainment. So it doesn't have the traction. And he doesn't play the trend game. Like, I do so many things wrong from a YouTube perspective related to if I was trying to grow a channel fast, I would do things very differently. I don't care. I want to grow the channel right. And so, cool. If people don't want the coaching, except for people like KDX who are rare, cool. I'll shut up and I'll go build something awesome. And then all those people that thought I didn't know what I was talking about, I'd be like, hey, can you show me how you did that? I'd be glad to show you how you did that. Right? So that's all. I'm not so much worried about people criticizing me. That's anytime you start to get successful, just be ready. Someone's gonna hate. Let's see. Dino says, I use audiobooks heavily. Good for long commutes. Absolutely. 100%. KDX says, in the next 2 years, around 1 billion more people are expected to come online. How do you think this will affect the online world? Well, you'll have greater demand. Like right now, we have a supply and demand problem. We have so many producers and only so many consumers. With 1 billion more people consuming, there will be more demand. So there will be more opportunity. The difference is a lot of people that are coming online won't be English speakers. So that'll be an interesting challenge to overcome. Let's see. Anna says, this is a personal question that does not have to be addressed. Are you organized? How do you stay organized? It is not a priority for me because I always know where my stuff is. But it's a major impediment to my peace of mind. Advice. Also, it impedes me professionally. I am not the most organized person on the planet. I am insanely organized with a small list of things that very much matter, like my accounting, my client outreach, very organized with that. But by and large, no, I'm not an insanely organized person. I think if you looked at my notebooks, that would be... So like if you... I can't show you because it's on my phone, but if you could see how I take my notes on my phone, it's all over the place. So no, I'm not a stickler for organization. But if being organized, being not organized is causing you emotional strain, I think you have to ask yourself, are you typically an organized person and something's keeping you from keeping things organized? Or are you, are you just not really all that organized and there's just, you have to learn how to cope with that. If people weren't allowed to be anonymous online, the behaviors of people would change a lot. To a degree. Melanie says, exactly. It all goes back to people's insecurities. Melanie says, Johnny, depression in his basement with 4 subscribers. More like 0 subscribers, 0 uploads, and no picture. That's true, too. Very true. Johnny Depression. That should be a character on our show. Johnny Depression. Ursula says, you have quality and the quantity will follow. Only trolls complain instead. Yeah, 100%. Kimberly says, I do too. I agree with you. I'm back. Aren't you supposed to be asleep? Don't you have to get up early? I mean, I'm glad you're here. Let me rephrase that because that sounded really aggressive. Are you not supposed to be sleeping because you have to do stuff tomorrow? I actually have to be up somewhat early tomorrow too, so I can't stay up crazy late. I gotta go get my car fixed. Let's see. Taj Marie says, this has been fun, but it's time for a hot shower. It's cold. And to go to bed. I am not a morning person, but that is when my brain is on full cylinders. So I don't have a choice. Taj Marie, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thanks for being here. Dan's Public Domain Corner. Be ready for hate. Makes sense for me. Yeah, the better you get at stuff, the more people are going to hate because they're jealous. And it's not just that they're jealous because that's kind of arrogant. It's that they want to win too and they're not winning. It's hard to deal with. All right, let's get ready to wrap here tonight, guys and ladies. What do you say? Belgian Dan says, back to the main channel. Cody Knapp says, what is your take on religion? Not what you think of it as a whole, but what do you personally believe, if anything? So I'm a Bible guy. That's me. I'm a Jesus dude. That's how I roll. Science has pretty much proven that people that have some type of religious belief are generally happier than most. But, you know, what does that even mean? But yeah, so I'm a Jesus dude, man. I'm a Bible reading Jesus man. That's my take. Jennifer says, could you talk a little bit about INTPs and ENTJs? My daughter, turning 11 years old, is INTP, and we have some fun conversations about this. You know, no one's ever really told me a good age to test. 11 seems kind of young to me, as we're still kind of forming the way we process information and make decisions. Listen, my answer to every Myers-Briggs question when it comes to what about this type and this type, it's simple. It's empathy. It's empathy. It's empathy. It's empathy. This is why I don't like when people ask me, hey, I'm an IS whatever, and I'm thinking about dating an ENF whatever. Do you think it's going to work? I have no idea. It's not going to work because I can guarantee you not a single marriage has been amazing because someone picked the right Myers-Briggs type. The reason why the marriages are amazing is because you have two people who have an insane amount of empathy, are willing to work to make the relationship happy for each other, not just for themselves. And so the same goes for a daughter-mother relationship, right? So it really comes down to empathy, being willing to see where the other person is coming from, regardless of their personality type, and vice versa. Lauren Noel says, I have a crush on an ENTJ. I'm an INFP. And when I like someone, I get so nervous in my head. What advice do you recommend to attract an ENTJ? Well, it depends on the ENTJ. Honestly, I don't think there's a cookie cutter answer for what's attractive to one person versus another person, because there's different types of attraction too. There's physical attraction. There's intellectual attraction. There's, I'd argue, spiritual attraction. So just listen, it's the same advice I would give you if you were dating anybody. Just be yourself. Because here's the best advice I can give you. Be all of yourself, regardless of their personality type. Because first of all, a crush, what's a crush? It's something that's by nature temporary. It's something that's going to wear off. And if you are not in a position where you can build true intimacy and friendship, then a relationship is not really going to last. So a crush is not something I would base wanting to build a relationship off of. But at the same time, again, going back to what I said to Jennifer, it's empathy. In this case, be empathetic and be honest and be yourself. Because here's the best thing that can happen to you. You be yourself and someone does not like you. You know why that's good? Because then you don't end up being with someone who doesn't like you. You know, if you trick somebody into liking some made-up version of yourself, then you're lying, and eventually the real you is going to come out, and then it's going to be disappointment central. You don't want that. Be you. Doesn't matter what their personality type is. Crushes come and go. Don't base your life decisions with relationships on crushes. I know that's not a very romantic answer, but it's real. That's coming from someone that's been married for almost 15 years. And by the way, like legit, really like my wife. People say when I say, they're like, well, don't you love her? Yeah, love is easy. I choose love. You don't get to choose who you like. It's coming from a dude that's seen the ups and downs of a relationship. The friendship's what's going to keep you together, not the crush. Chris Coleman, stuck in career choice. Advice on how to choose. Self-awareness. Know yourself. The better you know yourself, the better choices you'll make. Chris Bertucci says, thanks for your INFP videos. I would think about the things you were talking about all the time, and when I saw you talking about them, I was blown away. Yep. Glad to hear that, man. That's awesome. I had no idea, by the way, that the things I say would resonate so well. I was actually ready for everyone to yell at me and be like, this sucks. You don't know what you're talking about. Because that's how the internet usually is. But you guys have been amazing. Ursula says, enjoy time with everyone. Dream sweet, y'all. Belgian Dan says, I'm an atheist. Belgian Dan says, sleep well, Ursula. Anna says, really, really like this and genuinely appreciate the opportunity to interact. Mad respect. Take it easy. Good night. Good night, Anna. Glad to have you. All right. Jennifer says, thanks for including my question. As an FYI, my kids, there are kids, they have kids MBTI stuff now. Good God, the MBTI people are great marketers. That is hilarious. Oh, Jesus, MBTI. What are we doing to our children? But no, I think that's cool. My son actually wants to take the test, and I've been like, easy, brother. I don't know if you are a different person a lot of days. I don't think you've quite fully developed into test-taking mode. Belgian Dan says, congrats, man. Almost 15 years. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks, brother. Chris Coleman, thanks. You're welcome. Sam Hunter Bryant, do you think that being an empathetic person in this day and age is weakness? I'm an empathetic person, but it seems like our fast-paced society does not value. Absolutely not. In fact, the further we get down this road, the more empathy is going to have to be necessary. Let me give you an example, Samuel Hunter. Once upon a time, a company out of France called Ubisoft released a game called Assassin's Creed something that sucked and was broken, and the world was pissed. Ubisoft, I think, gave everybody either a refund or some free download code. That was showing empathy. Microsoft, when all of their first-generation Xbox 360 started to break, they replaced them. Lost a lot of money. Empathy. I guarantee you, if those two companies had not made those two moves, they would be finished. Finished. Do you hear me? Microsoft would not be making game systems right now if they had not done that. One of the reasons why Sony is struggling so bad, other than the PlayStation 4, because the PlayStation 4 showed empathy after the PlayStation 3 debacle. The reason why Sony as a company as a whole is struggling is because they've been pissing on their customers since 1990s, putting out inferior products and charging too much for them. And now that there's a thing called the internet, you can't get away with that for very long before everyone says, yeah, totally don't buy that Sony television. Mine stopped working after a week and the warranty didn't cover it. Okay, so empathy is not a weakness. It will be your greatest strength. Now, does that mean people will take advantage of you? Yep, I've had clients literally do it to me. Strike deals with me verbally, like verbally agree to do business with me and then blow me off for a month and then shut the deal down when I'm expecting. I was literally doing work for the client when they just cut me. It happens. Now, why did they cut me? I believe because I gave them an insane amount of value and they tried to do it on their own, or they got hustled by some company that was offering to do what I was doing for $300 a month. Let me tell you something. Any company is going to do what I do for $300 a month. You're going to get what you pay for, and you're going to be calling me back in a month anyway after it doesn't work. Okay, so empathy is absolutely necessary, 100%. And if you look throughout history, it's been the people who are actually the most empathetic that win. Why did Benjamin Franklin get so dope? He was an asshole until someone pulled him aside and was like, hey, dude, you need to square this away. Then he transformed himself into a Casanova type character and everybody loved him. KDX says, I appreciate your vids and live streams. Keep up the good fight, Bryant. I will. Thank you. Chris Coleman, thoughts on law of attraction? Yeah, I like law of attraction. Why not? I am Peter Cole. That was Assassin's Creed Unity, and I got a free $60 game out of that. Yeah, you love Ubisoft because they gave you a free game, but I guarantee you if they said, sorry, it's your fault, nobody would be buying Ubisoft games right now. Ubisoft would be selling tires in Pasadena, Texas, which would be really weird because the company's based out of France, but, you know, comedy. Nigel says, LOL, I can only imagine MBTI kids questions. You like playing on the playground more than arts and crafts. MJMBK says, Bryant, what's up, bro? What up? How you living? Good to see you. All right. Last call for questions, friends. I need to start getting ready. I'm going to have some downtime and then some bedtime. That said, Anna Anderson said, empathy is the weird exclamations, which I imagine she's trying to say. It's the shiznit. All right. So while you guys are getting your last questions in, do you also have any questions about the peak performance coaching program that I've been talking about? How you get in it? What do you get out of the deal? Are you interested in it? Do you have any reservations about it? Leave me those questions as well. I'll be sure to get those answered. Just know that the benefit that's being promised is helping you define what it is that you want out of your life, laying the foundation of decision making and taking action that's going to help you get that thing that you want so bad, whether it's more money, it's a better job, it's not having to have a job, it's finding a suitable mate, it's overcoming challenges, addictions, whatever the thing is that you're trying to get life by the horns. I am supremely focused on helping people take command of their lives and start to win in a way that's organic to who you are as a person. And that's something that I believe very much in, and I put heart, soul, blood, and sweat into this program for people to help them understand how to overcome these challenges, right? And the people who've been in the pilot program, I've been able to very specifically come into their lives, identify problems, and give them, not only lay the foundation and the curriculum, and we basically have the Sun Tzu philosophy where it's the general that knows themselves, knows the enemy, will win the war, win the fight, right? So we lay that foundation of knowing thyself. That's where we start. But then we start understanding the enemy. What's the enemy? Well, the enemy is your environment, right? The enemy is the forces that come against you, the resistance that's there that you think is there to stop you. But what I teach is that resistance comes in your life to propel you, not to stop you. And we teach you how to keep that in perspective so that you can win. And not every time you hit a wall of adversity, you either give up or think that the universe is against you, when the universe is really just testing you to see if you're worthy of your dream. All right. So if you're interested in that, let me know, because we're only getting 15 slots. We're going to kick it off. I think it's January 7th is when the next session will start. So you need to get in where you fit in and not drag your feet, because I think we've got 15 slots. I think now we're down to 11 for sure. It was somewhere between 12 and 11. And I say that because I've got people that have committed and just haven't filled out their form yet. But I know they're coming. And I've reserved them slots. So I think we've got 11 out of 15 slots left, which sounds like there's a lot left because it's November. But believe me, once we get into December and get closer to execution, people are going to start buying up the slots. So get in there. Tyler Durden says, still here. Cody says, what is your take on drug use? In particular, I have anxiety, and half the time it's not manageable. But I want it to be. Any way I can do that, or are taking benzos the end-all, be-all for my cure? So, Cody, I would recommend it. Well, let me read the rest of your comments. I've been seeing a therapist for months using coping mechanisms, the whole 9 yards, but sometimes I feel like none of it can replace or drive such a strong feeling out of my body or let me control it. Yeah, I have thoughts. I've been to therapy before. Surprise, surprise. In fact, it was mandatory for me to go through therapy before I became a minister back in my very early 20s. And it was great. I've been in some therapy sessions that weren't so great. But, my feelings are, if you're getting results, I'm all for it, okay? Jonathan Haidt, in his book, I would actually recommend this to you. Let me grab it so you can see it. Jonathan Haidt speaks to your question very specifically in the book, The Happiness Hypothesis. And he talks about folks, the type of folks that actually do need medication to overcome certain things in life. It's not everybody. Is that you? I really don't know. I am not a licensed professional, so I'm probably not qualified to evaluate you. But I can tell you that, anxiety and depression are things that we have a hand in causing, right? And it's caused by our habitual thoughts and behaviors. And so if we can get our thoughts under control, you know, and this is something, that's the first thing we actually teach in our peak performance coaching program. If we can get our thoughts under control, then we can, by default, get our actions under control. And I think at the very least, we can minimize the amount of anxiety and fear and depression that we experience, if not eradicate it, right? So, you know, do I have thoughts on whether or not drugs and benzos? I don't think benzos are the be-all, end-all by any, because if they were, you would take them and then it would be over. But to have to take them to sustain yourself by nature tells me that it's not a perfect solution. Now, it may very well be the solution that you need. Again, I'm not qualified to tell you that. But I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that I'm against it, right? Some people need it. Some people just need it. I know people that have schizophrenia. You know, they don't have the faith system that I have to be able to work through prayer and developing mindsets. They need outside help. And so medication is what gets them through. I'm not in any way, shape, or form against them taking drugs. If it's helping them be better human beings and enjoy their life without damaging their bodies, I'm cool with it. But I think what I hear in your question is that you're not sure if you're cool with it and you're looking for someone to validate it for you. Don't look for that. Validate it for yourself. If you think you can do it without medication, get involved in some programs to include your therapy that can at least help you give it the attempt to get away from that. Some people can't. But at the end of the day, what I don't want you to do is to beat yourself up. If you're a person that needs medication, that's not a flaw. It's not a fault of yours. That doesn't make you weaker or less of a human being because you have a need that someone else needs at all. And anybody, you know, it's funny. I was talking about this with my group earlier. The most judgmental people in the world are the folks that never look at their own life. Because if we looked at our own mess and our own problems, we would very rarely judge much of anybody for their actions, regardless of how heinous, you know, save for seriously heinous things that people do that just need to be dealt with. But, you know, it doesn't make you weak, doesn't make you less of a man, doesn't mean that if you had to take benzos that you can't accomplish all the things you want to in your life. All those things are still possible. So my advice to you is if you're looking for validation, or if you're looking for someone to tell you that drugs are the wrong way, you need to do this, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to encourage you to do whatever you have to do to overcome the challenge and get what you want out of your life. And don't let anyone, including yourself, beat you up for you needing additional help, because you're not alone. I have not read, going to Joshua's comment, the law of success. I've read Think and Grow Rich, which is okay. I didn't think Think and Grow Rich was the best thing that ever happened, but it was good. There was some really good thoughts in Think and Grow Rich that I really liked, but as a whole, the book was just kind of okay for me. It's kind of like on that Secret tip, which is just like, oh, come on. Like, I've read the book that The Secret is actually based on. Like, I have that book. And it's like, The Secret. Come on, guys. Let's cut it out. So I have not checked out that book. I don't have any. I'd be happy to read it. Interested in the second wave of your program just because I'm so tied up at the moment. So when you say the second wave of the program, so the second wave of the program is the one in January. Is that what you're talking about, or are you looking to get into it at some later time? Joshua, gotta go. Loved it all. God bless everyone. Stay strong, Mr. Chambers. I'm in your debt. You're not in my debt, friend. What I give is free of charge, my brother. Enjoy yourself. Samuel Hunter, Bryant, how long is the coaching course, in weeks or months? Is it in one-on-one group sessions? So yes, it is 4 weeks. It's usually 2-hour sessions. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer. And then you've got, actually it's 5 weeks, because the first week you're doing a bunch of work leading up to the first call. And so the first call, there's 4 calls. There's basically 5 weeks of work. And then, yes, so it's a live call, very similar to what I do with folks in my social media academy. It's one-on-one group calls where you will be on a call with a couple of other. That's why I keep the groups very small, because I can manage 15 people. I can't manage a live stream like this where, you know, over the course of this call, clearly over 100 people have been here. I wouldn't be able to manage that and make it beneficial to you. So we keep the groups really, really small so that we can get through the material and make it beneficial for all of you. So yeah, it's one-on-one, but it's one-on-one in a group. And the reason why we do one-on-one in a group, it allows me to make the coaching way cheaper. So if I was to do a one-on-one call, let's say with a client, whether it was marketing or whether it was life coaching, it would, for me to make it viable for the time I would have to spend, 8 hours of coaching somebody basically, for me to make that viable for my business and my family and to take that much time out of my life, it would be $5,000, right? But when I can do it in a group, I can make it I can make it 10 times less than that, because I can recoup the cost for the same amount of time, right? And so that allows me to pass the benefit on to you, but you still get one-on-one attention, because we're going to go through a lot of your work that you've done. And then we always have Q&A where people are able to ask, look, I'm going through this issue. How do I apply either this lesson that we learned today or the lessons we've learned over the last couple of weeks to this problem? And we can go through that. So that's how it works. Cody Knapp says, at a loss for words. Thank you. It's my pleasure, Cody. Stay strong. Flowers Red, hello. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you, Flowers Red. God bless you. Monsvini says, what to do about generalized anxiety? Just understand that anxiety is the result of habitual thinking patterns. If you change the way you think habitually and the way you behave habitually, it's interesting that you inevitably change the way that you feel. So that's the most generalized answer I can give you. Flowers Red says, I just took the test and found out I'm an ESTJ. Sweet. Samuel gives the thumbs up. So for Samuel and anyone else here that's interested in more details about the program, or if you'd like to join, and let me give you some more background information, because some of you are in my other programs and you get additional benefits if that's the case. So I'm posting a link to the coaching program. All of you here, definitely, even if you're not immediately interested in it tonight, just go check it out so you can see what it's all about, because I know that I'll be able to add value to all of you at some point, whether you join it or you don't. At least that way you may see what I'm providing, and you may have questions that you can ask on free calls, right? So if you are in one of my other programs, so for example, if you are in my Social Media Ninja Academy as a VIP, that means you are paying a monthly fee. You're basically paying a Netflix fee for me to come into your home every month and spend several hours with you going over marketing and YouTube stuff, right? If you were paying for that, then you get a discount on everything I release, to include this coaching program, which has nothing to do with YouTube, although we do have YouTubers in it, believe it or not. You get a discount. If you were in Europe, you pay a cheaper price than what I charge the people in the United States, because everything for you all, I've had many people from New Zealand, Australia, the UK, Canada that get into my programs. In fact, I want to say I have more folks from overseas than I do Americans in my program, interestingly enough. And to a person, they're all like, hey, I really wanted to get into your program, but it's X amount of dollars, which means it's like $200 more than that for me. So, you know, what one of your people is paying is this, but I have to pay this crazy amount. So I've made the prices different for different areas. So if you're in one of those European areas, then you would pay and it's all explained on the website. When you go to purchase it, it says, are you this person? Click here. Are you this person? Click here. And by all means, if you click the wrong one, all you got to do is tell me. And then, you know, like if you click the wrong one, let's say you paid too much, it's really simple. I get a notification on my phone that says you purchased it. You shoot me an email that says, hey, I just bought it. Here's my email address. I clicked the wrong one. I immediately refund you the difference. And then it takes 3 days to hit your bank. And believe it or not, that happens. I had somebody pay for one of my Social Media Ninja Academy. So for you YouTubers out there who may not be as interested in personal and professional development, you just want to focus on YouTube. My graduate program for YouTube is basically $1,000, right? And it's, at this point, it's like over 60 hours of content. It's insane, right? I had somebody who wanted to buy the undergraduate program, which is only $1, right? It would be free, except the thing I use to collect money forces me to charge something, so whatever. So it's $1, right? The graduate program's $1,000. And I had somebody buy the graduate program when they were trying to buy the undergraduate program, and they mailed me like, hey, yeah, I just bought the graduate program. I wanted the undergraduate program. So I immediately refunded their money. It doesn't happen extremely often, but people are busy. They're in a rush. They're distracted. I mean, everybody, I'm like that. So I get it. People get into the program. Rest assured, you'll be taken care of. When you join, you get an automatic email from me. I feel like a light just went off somewhere. When you join, you get an automatic email from me that says, here's where you go to sign up for your account. Here's how you log in after you sign up for your account. Here's the private Facebook where we all hang out. By the way, there is a private Facebook group that you will have lifetime access to. So even after the 5 weeks of training and coaching, you can still ask questions in the private Facebook group. You can ask questions that members of the group can answer or that I can answer. And once you're a member, you're always a member, okay? It doesn't end just because you finished your 4-week. And that's kind of an extra bonus that I give to you all, that you can still ask, because inevitably you're going to get through 5 weeks of training, 4 weeks of coaching, 5 weeks of exercises, and you're going to have more questions because you're going to start implementing the things we teach, and then you're going to feel, ooh, I got a question. Well, who wants to pay another whatever dollars just to ask one question? So you just go to the Facebook group, you drop your question, and then a number of us will probably respond to it and get you on the right path. And the beauty is, over time, as we continue to do sessions, because where I'm working to get to is two groups per month. So I may do a second group in January. Right now it's looking like I won't be able to. I'm just going to have to do the one. But by February, I'm hoping to have that stuff worked out. More and more people will pour in, meaning there will be people there with experience that I don't have. Like some people tonight were asking about, hey, what do you think about the stock market? Well, you may have a stock market banker in there who can answer a question better than I can. Or like one of the folks that I'm coaching right now runs a nutrition and fitness business. I've never run one of those. So someone who wants to get into that business, I can help you with the general principles of success and the things that you need to do to be successful specifically for you. But this person can walk you through, here's what I've lived building my nutrition business. Right? So what I'm hoping to build is an army of people who can come together and help one another succeed. Not just me, but you'll be learning from the collective membership that's there. So definitely take advantage of that. There is a link right now. Links are always in the descriptions of all my videos if you're looking for this, but there's a link here in the comments as well. So with that said, I want to make sure, any last minute questions, anything else you guys and ladies have for me, whether it's related to the program or just generalized questions, burning desire questions you have before I go to sleep. What you got? Nothing? Wow. Did the chat break again? Because I feel like you guys are usually way more chatty than what I'm seeing right now. I hope the chat didn't break. It's altogether possible that it did, though. Nah, you've just done it all, man. Okay, cool, cool. All right, well, if you all don't have any other questions or if I missed something, you can always hit me up on Facebook. Brian, oh, by the way, gang, this is what should happen. Okay, there's Facebook, although it made it weird. Don't click that thing that I just typed. Just search BryantChambers page on Facebook. All right, here's me on Twitter. Insta is... Here's me on Instagram. And Snapchat is... And all the links are at the top of my page as well. So this is how you can stay in touch with me. Let me give you a breakdown of how I use this stuff. Facebook is how I do engagement. I don't prefer to do engagement on YouTube for one very simple reason. If you write me a page-long thing that you want me to pay attention to, rest assured I'm going to find it. But I get a lot of comments every day, and it means that comment is going to get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And if for one particular day I can't get to it for 24 hours, it means I'm going to have to go fishing for it. Versus on Facebook, as long as I don't touch it, it's going to leave me a notification that says you still have a message to respond to. Right? So on Facebook, it's much easier to engage. I also post content on Facebook that I don't post on YouTube because I know it works better on Facebook. Right? And I don't put it on YouTube because I know it wouldn't work there. Right? And I like to give some exclusivity on all the platforms just to give you incentive to be on all of them. On Twitter, I spend most of my time listening. Twitter is also a very good place to ask me questions for my podcast, which, by the way, the podcast if you have the app called Anchor, you can find it there. You can also find me on the Google Play Store and on iTunes. Twitter is a great place to just engage with me for quick chit chat, or if you have a question that you want to be on my podcast, you can place it there, #AskBC. That way I can organize all the questions, and I have a feed that when I'm on my podcast, I can flip through your questions. All right, Facebook makes that a little bit harder to do. All right, Instagram is typically where I do my book. I don't do summaries necessarily. I just talk about why the book is important to me and how I'm using it in the moment. But you can rest assured if I'm posting a book or a video game on Instagram, it's an important one. Like tonight, I posted a very cryptic Instagram post that I doctored. I doctor my images. You know, I can't do #NoFilter because I filter the crap out of my images. But it was about a video game that had a very powerful impact on my life, nostalgically bringing me back to my childhood, paying homage to things that I enjoyed from my childhood, and giving me a very awesome existential story to engage with. And so I took the picture, and I gave a shout out to the developer because he and I have kind of become internet friends. Because he hooked me up with a copy of the game back a month before it came out, so I could review it. But Instagram's where I'm doing those types of things. So you'll see The Obstacle is the Way. I'm going to be shooting this book and talking about what's powerful about that. This book here, Waking the Giant Within. And these are books that, all three books are ones that we used to coach on today. Because our coaching group meets on Saturdays. Right? The Art of War is one that we're going to be doing. Actually, I just did Art of War. I didn't like the way the picture came out, though, so I'm probably going to do a new one. And I just did this one recently, The Conversion Code. If you're interested in online sales, very good book. Very good book. So you can see I got books all over the place. I got books coming out of books. All right, so that's what Instagram is for. Snapchat is just fun. You know, I don't use Snapchat to do a whole lot of propaganda. I just do silliness on propaganda. Uh-oh. I think my cousin's giving me some marketing work to do here. It looks like I'm not going to be able to go to bed right away. Might have to go make some money. Although if all of you join my coaching program, I can stop doing marketing altogether. I could just focus on making your life. If all of you on this call right now join my marketing program, I could take off probably, I could take off half a month and just focus all on you people. You just focus my life. And then the podcast is about sharing principles of success and dealing with life in a way that doesn't really work on YouTube. It's a lot more stream of consciousness, talking and having a conversation than it is trying to give educational information. So my first podcast was very powerful. It was called Bloodstains. It was about a traumatic experience I had in combat dealing with death. And believe me, it was not the only one. It was just the most tragic. And it's a story that I've never shared publicly. I've never talked about it on YouTube. It's because it's grim, and I prepare the audience like this is going to get hard, but if you get through it, it has a silver lining, and this message is going to empower you. But just know that some of what I'm about to share with you is hard to listen to. All right, it was also hard to see. But then this past week's podcast was a lot more upbeat. It was on leadership. And what is the meaning of leadership? You hear a lot of people talk about it, and John Maxwell coaches on it. but what is it really? And as a person who's had to lead hundreds of people, well, in combat it was about 100, and then bringing them home it was several hundred. As a person who's had to lead lots of people into an environment where people were paid to kill us, you can imagine that I have a very interesting perspective on what leadership is, right? And I share that perspective, and it's all with the idea that I'm going to help you apply it to your life, because all of you are going to have to lead in some way, shape, or form, and you need to know what leadership really is to do it right. So that's on that last week's podcast. This week's podcast, I have a bunch of different topics, and I may be doing an interview with somebody, so I'm not sure which episode we're going to do. But that's how it works. Driftflow says, INFP here. Love your content, man. Thank you so much. Cody Knapp says, sounds like direct messaging isn't ideal for Facebook for you. Do you check direct messages on Snapchat? I'm sure I'll have more. Direct messages on Facebook are way better than Snapchat. Yeah, you can DM me. You can go to my Facebook fan page and just send me a direct message there. I will get that way. I hate when people text me on Snapchat. I hate it. Like, I don't mind when people say, hey, that was funny, or hey, love the content. When someone writes me a book of questions, it's like, dude, like, first of all, film that and don't write it, because or I'm going to film the response. But Facebook, like, dude, I don't even like Snapchat. I'm only there because my whole life is dedicated to helping people, and people under 27 years old like a silly picture app for some reason. So that's why I'm there. Anyway, friends, get at me. You got questions, we've got answers. It's always a pleasure to serve every single one of you. Me and the clapper here bid you farewell, letting you know that we are stronger than I. Love you all very much, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.